didn't sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again, you gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole.
Tomorrow, one of our favorite days, April Fool's Day. I wonder if those chairs in that conference room down the hall will be completely just moved all around the room tomorrow. What do you think the chances of that are? Shh. I know, brilliant, right? He said the one time, so he walks, so do I, during breaks, just stretch the legs. And he was saying about how he walked into that conference room, just sort of takes a loop, but it started to bother him that the chairs were not perfectly situated. Like, they were just a little bit not perfectly back together. The family at the restaurant just left, and the staff isn't back yet to sort of redress the scene. So what did he say? Like, he would put the chairs back, or he didn't even want to go in there anymore because the chairs weren't like properly. So I haven't told anybody this yet, but for like the last 2 months, once or twice a week, I'll just go down there and move all the chairs around. I've been a little bit wondering if, like, hey, welcome back. You good?
I'm shook. Shook is what I am. Do you want me to tell the whole? You've opened the door, buddy. Here it comes. So I walk around during the breaks, and we don't have the biggest office, the biggest floor, but and I could go out. I have a way to get in and out, but I do laps around our offices during the breaks, and a part of that is there's a large conference room with, 15, 16 chairs around it, big table. We have meetings in there sometimes, and that's like the end of my loop. I loop through that room or walk around the table and then come back here. And I got in the habit, when I was doing this in the winter, of tucking the chairs into the table, in part because I'm a lunatic and I like to have everything look symmetrical, and so I want the chairs to look. But it's also to protect myself. At 5 o'clock on a Wednesday in the winter, it's dark in there. And if I go walking through there, it's pitch dark, the shades are closed, I'm going to trip and fall on a chair that's askew. So
terrible. I've
gotten in the habit of tucking the chairs in. So, 45 minutes ago, I took this walk, and I went through that room, and I didn't have to tuck any chairs in, and it's not as big an issue now because it's light out until we're off the air.
You can see your way around.
I can see my way around if there's something in my way. But everything was neat. Like, all the chairs were tucked in. It was fine. I didn't have to move anything, and I just walked through and came back. And then just now at 4:58 or whenever we went to break, I got up and walked around, did the same loop, and there were like 10 chairs as askew in there as I've ever seen. Like, somebody was sitting and just pushed the chair as far and as hard as they could away from the table and left the room. 10 different people did this in that room, and there are, 8 people here right now?
I'm not sure there are that many.
I mean, you got us
there are
3.
4 of us.
There's Puckett's out there. There's Brayton out there. A couple of other dudes. Producer for Bowerly's show. There's definitely
10.
less than 10.
Okay.
What happened between 4:15 and 5 o'clock? Like, did everyone show up for a meeting and just wreck the room? I mean, wreck the room's a little strong, and then just leave?
On a Friday, I doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of sunny. Well, I just have no idea. I feel like someone who knows that I do that with the chairs is messing with me. But there's nobody here. There are a couple of women who work down at that end of the building that I have confided in them that I have a thing about the chair. I tuck the chair. I want the chairs to look nice. And they kid me about it when they see me. They're not here every day. But when they see me, they smile and laugh and like, there he goes to fix his chairs or whatever. Yeah, Allie.
Samantha?
Yes. And so they're not here.
No
one's here. Like, I could see Allie wanting to mess with me that way.
Really?
Yeah.
She doesn't seem that type to me.
She has made she makes fun of me in a fun, good-natured way about this, that I take this walk and that I have this chair thing.
Well, you may know her better than I do, but sometimes people have that and you don't know it. That sort of capacity.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if she were here. I would have thought, why did you do that to the chair? I would have immediately accused her of messing with the chairs.
You sort of want to right now anyway, even though she's not. You haven't seen her.
Right. I don't understand. Like, what happened to those chairs? Who moved those chairs? Who was in there? I mean,
there's really no chance there was a meeting.
No. If everyone who's here in the building right now went down there, including us, and left the chairs like that, that's the only explanation I have. And I know we didn't do that. I don't believe any of the people that are working in the newsroom went and did that. What the hell happened?
I don't know. What would make the most sense?
It wasn't just one chair either. It literally was like 10 chairs were just all over the place in there. I mean, as far away from the table as the walls would allow them to be is where the chairs were. And I just, I stood in the doorway like, how? Why?
You'd been there an hour ago.
Not even an hour ago.
And then you went back.
Yeah. And there's no one here. I'm
ghosts.
I am shook by this. Honest to God, I do not understand what just happened.
What would be the likeliest scenario? Something happened.
Yeah.
There was no meeting. There's no way the big shots are coming in to have a meeting, and they wouldn't even do that anyway. I feel like most of the people we work for would put the chairs back. You know, like you're taught to do. Like you're taught to do.
I can tell
maybe
you.
Not.
I can tell you that does not happen.
Okay, maybe not. But they're not in the building.
Yeah, and
so that's out.
And this was way more aggressive than it. Normally, there'd be like a chair or two that might be in my way that I could trip on if it were dark, and I got to tuck it in. Mm-hmm. This again was like 10 of the chairs were just like, what's even happening?
I don't know.
It would not have been. Given the state of the room, it would not have been surprising to see one of the chairs on the table. Literally, that's how messed up the room was.
You know, I hadn't thought of that one.
So I just don't have any idea what could have happened.
I should have thought of that one.
Did you go down there during a break and move the chairs?
I've been doing it every day. And last week, right, Zach? One day, I talked about it.
Wait, this is
real. The audience knows.
Oh, you guys are the best.
I was so worried I missed your live reaction when I had to do my update. I was very nervous I missed your live reaction.
I couldn't look at you. I was staring at my phone when you were telling me what happened.
I walked in and stood at the door. Like, I didn't even sit down. I couldn't even get in the room. I'm just like, how many people I'm yelling. How many people are in here right now? 8 of us?
I try.
You are.
Since you haven't said anything, like it's just for me, just also getting up and walking around. But I try to put the chairs in and spread them out in a certain way that makes it impossible to understand. Like the chairs are touching each other face to face or back to back, all the way in the corner. Today I put one that's like facing right down at the garbage can. So you'd be like sitting right up on top of the garbage can.
Well,
I don't know.
Good job.
I don't know.
You did a good job.
Finally.
You shook me.
Finally a payoff.
Were you what? So you have been doing this for how long?
Since shortly after the time you told me that the thing. Like that you go down there and
fix the chairs so I don't trip on them?
Yes, since shortly after that. Not every day, but every other day.
Were you doing this when it was dark out still?
I don't know. It was whenever you said that.
Because I never had any. What
was that, like 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Since then.
Wow.
And I do think, like, it hasn't come up yet. Is there a way I can make it even more ridiculous where the chairs, like I haven't gone as far as to stack them or put them on the table.
Right.
Because I really don't want a problem.
Right. Well, today was the first. They have been askew, and the room has looked different other days when I've gone down there after having been in there already, when I don't think anyone's here. But I guess I'm not sure. They could have been in a different conference room having a meeting with the door closed, and they, for some reason, went in that room because they needed the TV in there or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I've never really given it a thought, and it's never been askew enough for me to react the way I reacted. You finally got me to where I was like, how could this have happened?
I love the one where, like I did, the first one, if you go right to around the table from right to left, the first change I made is to have the chairs, like the front of the chair just touching the other one. Like if people were sitting in those chairs in that configuration, they'd be on top of each other.
Right, like holding hands.
Be holding hands
and like doing some sort of a trust exercise or something.
Yeah,
right?
Something sexual. Like it would be, why would two chairs be positioned like that ever? Because it would never happen if you just got up and left. It would never end up where the chairs are literally touching front to front.
Right.
Yeah. And I know you had a thing about that one that's a different kind of chair.
Oh, yeah.
So I always make sure to move one of those.
Yeah.
The leather one.
Okay, yeah.
That's all over now. I mean, that's it.
That has been...
It's worth it.
Prior to today, when... Because the chairs... There are 3 kinds of chairs in the room.
Is that right?
There are.
I should know that by now. You'd think I would know that by now. One set of them are exactly the same chairs that we're sitting in right now. Mm-hmm. Then there's chairs that have the same seat and back as we're sitting in, but have different arms, longer, sort of curved arms. Then there are chairs that have those same curved arms, but different backs and seats, like full leather or whatever, vinyl, I don't know, whatever it is, coverings. And I told Allie this when I first brought it up to her. Eventually, I confided in her that I'm stopping short of looking in the other conference room to see if there's enough chairs to make all the ones in the room I walk through the same. Swap them out.
So what I've done is I have all of the kind of chairs. The one kind of chairs are on one side of the table. The other kind of chairs are on the other side of the table. That all matches because I'm insane, and that works for me. The ends of the table, anything goes. I don't really care.
Right. Okay.
So when
You've made that change.
When I see one of the chairs like we're sitting in on the other side of the table, I think, is there someone who always sits over there that wants this chair that I'm annoying?
Yeah.
By moving it and forcing them to sit in this.
Well, they probably
turns out it's just you the whole time.
Probably yes. No, there could be somebody who wants to sit in a certain chair, and they probably all sit in the same seats in those meetings.
You've had a months-long gag running. I went to Puerto Rico and come home, and finally you get
I don't even remember why I brought it up. I didn't have a thought to bring it up. It was right at the beginning of a show one day last week. And do you remember why? I don't remember even why I said it.
You were missing me, that's why.
Something.
Couldn't have been that.
It just sort of came out. Like I felt like I was probably ruining it. By announcing it.
Nobody said a word to me.
Yeah. Great for me. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. or instead, maybe we're just so into each other that nobody would spoil it. Maybe let's say it was that, not that nobody was listening.
That was it. Yeah, that had to be it.
Even nobody at work said anything to me.
Right.
That could be a bad sign. I mean,
yeah, right.
The key still works, but
right.
I don't know.
I gotcha. Yeah.
It could be ending soon for me.
Oh, man. And I'm over here accusing poor Allie.
Well, not really. I mean, you didn't think it was her. You just didn't have a better idea.
I didn't have a better idea. Like, I guess I forgot that I told you I have this thing about such detail about the chairs.
I could have given you the weekend on this.
Yeah, you definitely could have. You probably should have.
Somebody then maybe tells you.
Yeah, if I'm out tomorrow or something, maybe somebody says like, "Hey, I heard you, on Friday talking about the chairs. It was Mike."
Should I have done that instead? Should I have just let it hang, until somebody else told him it was me? I don't know. I couldn't have.
I did. I'm trying to remember how long I let this run. We rented a car while we were in Puerto Rico, and it was a Hyundai Santa Fe, which is the same car you drive, but I guess it was a newer model because it doesn't look anything like your car. I described it to my kids because we were picking them up at the airport. I'm like, I'm going to be driving a car that looks like it was built in Minecraft, is how I would say it. And I like the car. I like the design of the car, but it's all sort of square. Yeah. It's just a lot, and it's very attractive and it's super comfortable. We all fit. We're huge, and we all fit in there. It was great. I noticed, in fact, I think it was when the kids were flying in and I wanted to tell them what kind of car we were in, and I was in the car. I wasn't driving at the moment, and I was in the driver's seat of the car, and I'm looking around the car for some sign of what, like, tell me what you are, car, right? Usually a car has some insignia, the make or model on the dashboard somewhere. This car had no markings inside it at all to tell you what it was. Okay. So I noticed that, and then Owen was driving. The day we went and played golf, I had a few beers and he didn't, so he drove us back from the golf course. And we're sitting at a red light, and I said to him, Take a look at your field of vision here for a second, and tell me if you notice anything peculiar about this car. And I said, it has nothing to do with its operational functionality or safety or anything at all. It's aesthetic. Just tell me if you notice anything that seems odd about this car. And he sat there and he looked around, and then the light turned green. He started going, and he's like, this is driving me crazy. Like, what could it be? What is it? What is it? And I think I let him, like, through the night. I think it wasn't until hours later I said, there's no insignia that tells you what make or model car it is inside the car. Like, even when you start it up, it doesn't say, like, Hyundai, nothing. There was no, that was kind of strange. Like, cars usually want you to know what you're driving. So I had a little thing like that with him where I was able to.
You let him hang.
I let him hang for a bit. But
did you put all the chairs back?
Oh, yeah, the chairs were all back. Yeah. I couldn't. I couldn't. Well, I can't live.
Of course. Well, thank you. I should thank you for that. Because now I have no chance that on, like, Monday morning somebody finally, that's enough with the chairs. They're all over the room. What happened in here? And then they get, like, the building people involved, and maybe there's cameras, and I guess I should be lucky that hasn't happened yet, as far as I know. Who's coming in here at night and moving all the chairs around? Like, that might be a thing you could ask. But
I love that this has been going on for months without me realizing it. It was never dramatic enough for me to notice like I did just now.
It only worked because you went down there twice.
That's right.
And I went in between and moved everything around. And when I come out of that room, I sort of jerk my head to the right to see if you're going to see me.
Right.
Like, what's my story? If we went down on the same break and you see me come out of that room, like, what are you doing? What's this?
Yeah. You never come down here.
You never come down here. Okay.
That was a very good guess.
All right.
Full marks to you. Good job.
I got the payoff
on
a Friday. Perfect little payoff.
Really did, because I was
no guest in the way.
I was aghast when I walked back in the room. I just like, how could this happen?
I was happy with the garbage can one. I don't know, right up against the wall, a chair just like pinned against the wall with a garbage can in front of it. Maybe somebody had to throw up or something.
I got to tell you, I'm not even sure I noticed it.
Okay.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rapid.
The Buffalo Sabres have announced that defenseman Rasmus Dahlin will represent Team Sweden the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Italy. And Team USA released the first 6 players of the Winter Games, including Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Austin Matthews, Charlie McAvoy, Brady Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk. Game 5 of the NBA Final tonight, as the Pacers and Thunder have split the series so far with 2 wins apiece. Tip-off is set for 8:30 p.m. And Shohei Ohtani is the Dodgers' starting pitcher tonight against the Padres for the first time since 2023 following his recovery from his elbow injury. First pitch is set for 10:10 p.m. at Dodger Stadium. And after a blockbuster trade yesterday between the Giants and Red Sox, Rafael Devers will likely split time between third base and designated hitter for the Giants, but no specific conversations have occurred as of yet, according to Maria Guardado, San Francisco Giants beat reporter for MLB.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
We're out, and somebody brings over something to give us.
Yeah, it was
This
very
guy,
nice. Yeah.
this guy dropped off beef jerky. I try it. I can't stop eating it. You know, like with good salsa, do you have this? Does it have this effect on you with good salsa? Like you get to a point where you almost just want to drink it. I can't stop. Chip.
Right in the bowl.
Yes, and maybe there's like a spicy nature of it that is why
good.
that is.
It's
This
good.
has that.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
I got to get back to some semblance of a life where I can eat normally. These weekend sports trips are just torture.
It's hard not to just fall into the rest stop trap.
How do you not?
You get off the highway and you go looking for someplace. Who wants to do that when you're trying to make time?
It takes so much longer. It costs more.
Who wants to do that?
Right. Saturday night, I was with my son in Columbus, and so they get done playing around 6, and all the boys want to hang out. They're all hungry, but they're not in charge. Like, all they care about is they want to hang out. So the dads, the parents are going to feed them. They just know that. Mm-hmm. So they're making their plans, get to the pool. Pool closes at 9. Everybody come over, 2 different hotels. Come over to Josh's hotel, and, food will be given us because we're kids. We don't have to actually care about that or think about that. It'll just show up on our plates.
Must be nice.
Must be nice. So I went off with this other family. I'm like, let's really eat. These guys, hate to deprive my son here, but there'll be time. There'll be time after. If we act quickly, we can go to a real restaurant.
Right.
And if it's, not bad, we can get out of there quickly and,
back here, nobody will even know, none the wiser.
That's right.
Right.
So that's what we did. And in this case, it worked out nicely. And we got to the other hotel. The party was at the other hotel. And as we were walking in, here comes 8 pizzas.
Of course. Right.
Hey, you guys want pizza? You're right on time. We just ate.
It's not just pizza. It's Ohio pizza.
I did hear that term.
I don't know. My experience is that largely is going to be challenging, if not worse.
Chain, probably at best.
Sure.
It's not really what you're expecting. It's going to have too much dough, too little sauce, too little cheese.
The pepperoni is going to be those big, huge, sandwich slice, they look like the bottom of tuna can pepperonis. They're just what even is that?
Is that salami?
Is that a cold cut on there? Just not. No, cup and char. Forget it. No, you're not. You're not getting what you're used to.
You're not. But it was a great time. Brought home a gold medal, and because of the rain delay, was able on a Father's Day, like a dad wants, to watch the last couple hours of the Open.
Yeah.
Is it really possible not to love the U.S. Open? There are people who just think, it's too hard?
I suppose. I think it's just people. I think people who like golf, generally the vast majority like the U.S. Open. I think. You don't have to like. I do see people who report on golf, cover golf, I presume really like golf, saying, I don't get a lot of pleasure out of watching the best players in the world look like me on a Saturday at my local muni. And I don't know. I don't think I want to exactly say I enjoy. It's not my favorite thing about it, but it is important to me to see these guys be challenged in that way once in a while. It can make you feel a little bit better about your own, ineptitude when you're on the golf course yourself. Not that that's necessarily what you're there for, but it does have that spillover for me anyway. And Scotty Scheffler, a lot of my friends, Saturday night, I think that was Saturday night, he finished his round. It was on the range, and the hat's all crooked. He's yelling at the swing coach, or just really animated. That's a lot of us. That's 98% of the golfing public is that person. I don't even know how to do this anymore. Why am I even here? Seeing the best in the world go through that, I think, gives you the ability to be more patient about yourself, more forgiving of your shortcomings. So if that's not too complicated, that is why I like watching them struggle. It's not just ha, 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 he almost fell into a pond. Not really. It's just knowing that the game can humble even the greatest players matters. And they practice and play all the time.
I don't think there's anything bad about it at all. Every course, whether intentionally or not, will provide a different standard. And the U.S. Open happens to have the reputation for the toughest standard, and somebody's going to have to be the toughest. So I think it's great. I think what it brings out, and it happens that this year it especially did that because of the winner and how he won. It brings out the importance of resisting the temptation to just give up and just go on tilt. And I think a lot of the top guys yesterday did that. You saw it from Burns. You saw it from Adam Scott. He just was a mess. You saw it from Hatton at the end when Hatton maybe smelled that he had a chance to win. And then when he put himself in bad spots and maybe got a little bad luck, he could not deal. Tough one, buddy.
Yep.
This is that tournament. And here, just like it was written, you got a guy in Spawn who has the tough start. Turns out he said his daughter was sick all night, so he's got a young child who's throwing up, and he was at CVS overnight or whatever he said. And then he hits that flag stick on 2 and loses 60 yards to that, and that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I was rooting for him. Like, he's my guy. And I'm in the car yesterday, like, come on, not another missed fairway, not another bogey. Like,
Right.
But as somebody, like, emotionally invested in him, I was, you're driving and you're thinking, and I'm paying attention to the golf tournament on the radio. And, like, buddy, you're still not out of it.
Right.
And he said when he won, he said, like, how he thought about that. There's a Tiger Woods story that Homa told him about, like, you just got to remember in that tournament, don't go away. Like, just be there. I think even Scheffler had that stretch where he just was, like, almost like he was indifferent on the greens. He had an 8-foot birdie putt, and he missed, and he just missed the next one. Like, he could have won.
Yeah. When it got to when Burns finally started making a couple of mistakes, in the back half of the back 9, I guess it really took almost that long for that to start happening to him. Yeah, all the guys, like we were communicating we have this bet with Brian. All the guys that were like 4 over that seemed like they were dead when the day started, suddenly like, oh, these guys are live. And Scheffler, I think at one point yesterday got to 3.
Yeah, he did.
I definitely saw what you're referring to from a number of players. And yeah, that again, like that's a part of. I want to be careful about like using what these people go through in such a high stakes event for my own purposes, but golf almost entirely for me the last 3 years has been about not ever losing my temper. I don't want to. I don't devote enough time or energy to practicing it. I like playing. And I don't feel like I've earned the right to be frustrated. If I worked a little more at it, I might get frustrated, and that's a dangerous line to walk. I don't want to put more in and then feel justified, because however much I put in, it's never going to be enough to get really good, I don't think, like really consistently good. But I like Spawn shoots 40 on the front. Somebody shoots 40 on for the front 9 of a major, goodbye, you're gone. And he just hung in there, and eventually it seemed like it really did. It took almost all day for Burns to miss anything. But once it happened, it was like, and it wasn't like he was hitting the, hospitality tents or anything. He just found some tough lies and missed a couple putts, and there it is.
He missed by very small amounts. Like he had at 11th hole, he doubled where the ball spun off the fairway into the first cut, and he might have been in a divot. And then there were 2 or 3 of those with him where he was just like, and that will get to you. I think this isn't saying too much, I hope. I think what golf gives you as a fan, if you've played, it's relatable. Nothing about watching the Bills is relatable. We make up stories about what those guys we think might be feeling during games, but there's nothing about what they're actually doing that like almost anybody has ever done. Just imagine being Josh Allen and calling one play and looking over the defense and then getting the pass rush and having all the people watching you. I mean, that's the same as golf, but and then executing. What has anybody ever done anything close to that? Like, that's just like way above what most people have ever experienced. And we love it, but we have no idea what it's actually like to do it. Golf, it's really maybe the one sport of all where if you've played any competitive golf in your life for $5, for the sea flight at your country club, for anything, that is the same. You're spawn on the 17th tee, and you've never won, and you're tied, and it's raining, and it's like an impossible shot. And it's, instead it's you at Tantera, or Pendleton Creek now, or me, and like I'm playing to get my name on a plaque, or I'm playing for $10.
Right.
And I'm over that ball.
Playing to beat my kid.
Whatever. I think that is, obviously you don't need to say it. The scale is different. But the feeling is not. I think the feeling is relatable. And when a guy, whoever it is, especially when somebody who's never done it, and he gets that sort of discounted status. Like Adam Scott was the guy yesterday who was supposed to be the one who knows how to win, right? Whatever that means.
Right.
We always say it. And he shot 79. Here's a guy that's like just kind of new on the scene, had never come close to winning he came close to winning the Players, but had never won a big tournament, never came close to winning a big tournament before that one.
That appearance at the Players is when I learned who he was.
Me too. I loved him that week.
I'm sure I'd seen his name over the years, but I'd never really thought about him one time.
I did not know the name at all. I watched that tournament because I was sick and just really liked his story. So, yes, there's infinitely more on the line, but he's over that drive at 17. He's over the 3-footer for birdie on that hole. He's over the drive and then the fairway shot, the second shot on 18, and then the putt. I mean, that was kind of a gift that he got to see it exactly, but he makes it. I mean, all that stuff is kind of like if you play, you can have that moment, even though the scale is vastly different. Sure, emotionally for us, that stake is going to feel, as big as it is going to get for you. Like for most of us, like I don't expect I'm ever going to be playing in a club championship or anything. I'm going to be 60 in a couple of weeks. I've never belonged to a club. I doubt that I will at any point here. They'll never say never, but so yeah. But you still know, and even if it's not the stake, something about golf that I think is very relatable is that it does allow you. This has been said many times, so I'm not breaking new ground here. But your point about football, you can make it about hockey, about basketball, whatever sport you want. Golf allows you the opportunity to once in a while do the thing that they do. You're probably not going to hit your drive 380 yards like Rory sometimes does, or DeChambeau, right? But a 250-yard 3-wood like Fox last week at the RBC in the fourth playoff, I've hit that shot, and that it's a great feeling. You don't find that in the other sports. Like if somebody was out there going, well, I was Josh Allen in high school, like, okay, you don't get to do it now. Like you can't revisit that, and of course there weren't 80,000 people and television cameras and all that too, but still you functionally performed some aspects of that job, quarterback of your team. But it's long gone. You can't get that feeling again almost 100% of the time. You're just not going to find it. Golf, even whatever age you are, is going to give you that opportunity. And that's a very cool thing about the game. And, again, that's why it's relatable to watch them struggle. A lot of us struggle at Bobolink, but to see them struggle is just I don't know, it just works for me in a way that very few athletic endeavors, I think, can. I mean, of course, right. Like if you've played any other sport on a high school or college level, you know more about what it is like to do it than someone who hasn't. It's not the pros. And I think maybe golf is different. I want it to be, I think. I think maybe it's different because it's just you and the ball. Like it's not – if you played baseball on high school or college level, you might remember pitching, batting, game on the line, championship. You would have that. You would know what that's like on that level. But, I feel like I'm making different points now, but to put that on like the major league level and the ball's coming in at 100 miles per hour or something, I mean, it's so different. It's just golf is still like you and the ball and the course, and I just can't really grasp what it's like to be able to execute with it all like Spawn did, like with it all right there. And I think that does get easier. It just logically, it should get easier when you've done it before. What this guy has been able to do, is like, however he actually does it in his mind, buy into himself as somebody that can do it. Like that's the story he keeps telling, is that he eventually learned how to believe in himself and to trust himself to play and have the confidence. And these shots, how much tougher does it get in golf than that, with that pressure and those conditions and that golf course? Like how much harder is the does the challenge ever become than what that was? And that's just it brings me to tears. Like when a guy like that is able to pull that off, it literally brings me to tears. I just admire so much somebody's ability to not lose it when there is all this going on. I mean, it's a game where, I mean, it's like anything, I guess. The more you practice, the more well prepared you are, the easier it gets. But I mean, I just know from my little experience in this, being over a 5-foot putt when what are you winning? What are you winning if you make it? Almost nothing, but it's important to you. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing in life to have.
Sure.
Something to compete for and something to want. And I just know, like, I would get really nervous and have to play games in my mind to get to a point where, like, I would be able to not be at my worst, or maybe at my best, but not be at my worst. One story I tell is, and I know it's like ridiculous to compare to the U.S. Open, but just being in a tournament, and we were winning and it got late and I started to really get tired and hot and just be like, I felt like I was exhausted and losing it. And we had a little bit of a break and we went to a playoff and I was the first person to hit in this playoff. We drew numbers. So I'm up first and I'm over the ball and I had the thought to myself, wait till these people see how great I am.
Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't, stripe one, but I survived it. I mean, we got all the way to the last hole and it was like effective.
Right.
I think different things. It's actually a Donald Trump line from decades ago in Sports Illustrated, building golf courses. And he said, I remember the quote in the magazine, about getting nervous in golf. Whatever it is that you're nervous about, just remember 6 billion people don't care. And that's updated to 7 billion now when I use that one.
Right.
I mean, far be it for me, but I do. I like that.
Right.
Just, you're playing tricks in your mind.
I like this point a lot about the anxiety that, I mean, of course, any pro athlete has, but golf is singular. It's a solo endeavor. Sure, you've got support people and family and coaches and whatever, but you're out there. It's the everybody watching, whether in person or on television. I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but this is very common, I think, among golf. First tee, right? Are people standing around? I got an approach shot, and people are on the patio at 18, and and everybody's watching, right? Like I still get nervous if I realize that I've been recognized. And there's a group or two groups on another hole that are just standing there while I'm teeing off. I'm like, okay, just hit a good shot.
Right.
But
but it takes effort.
It's like percentage-wise, it's so minuscule compared to but it's sort of, it translates. And these guys just have to just put that away and keep playing. And yeah, I mean, the lesson for Spawn, I mean, it's just keep going. 40 on the front. the brutal, all the excuses, everything is there.
But it didn't matter.
Right.
Because he wasn't losing much ground. He was already one off to start the day, and everybody else was struggling too. So he got to 4 back. That's the most I think he was ever behind. And then he makes a couple of bombs, right? 12, where he just touches it and it goes in.
Right.
Then you can start to think, maybe it's meant to be a little bit. You can start to think that you're going to win.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody would be different at that.
He was just the first one of the leaders to sort of wobble. He wobbled early. Burns, funny enough, the leader going in and the leader for most of the day yesterday, shot 40 on the back.
Yeah, he birdied 10 to get to -2. And he was the only person under par. He was 2 under, and Scott might have been even at that point. And then 11 was a disaster for both guys. They both doubled.
Yeah,
I think 11, or Burns did. Maybe Scott bogeyed, but yeah, then it started to get away from him. I'm thinking about it. You probably are too, in terms of Brian, because it was Burns or bust for Cameron Young, but it was really he had Burns, and that was $100.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I didn't have a Burns problem. I had a Brian problem.
Right.
I didn't want Burns to win because I didn't want Brian to win.
I had the misfortune, it turned out it didn't matter, but for a lot of the day, even really a lot of the weekend, I think I told you this on Friday, when Brian made his picks, I decided, all right, I'm going to grab one of the people he's got in the pay double tier here, right? And Burns and Henley were two of them. I don't know if he had three, and I don't remember who the. Okay, oh right. So I just really blind. Burns had a good weekend last weekend. Nah, I'm gonna back the other guy. So I was on Henley. And the odds were really juicy on him, and they would have been on Burns too. And I was regretting not tailing Brian on Burns. As it turned out, I would have lost either way. But
that's right.
Yeah, we were. It was him. He was the only threat all day, and it just seemed like he was never gonna go away. And then finally, he did.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, hasn't Brian won enough? Not this year in this particular contest. He has not. He's not won very much at all. But that
felt good. That putt, even though, I mean, it takes up maybe a little something away from it that he didn't need it to win. Like, once it's getting there, I don't know, maybe a lot of people had the same thought. I'm watching that putt go and was like, oh, he's got this. Like, it's going to be close enough for a tap in par, and that's all he needs. And so, like, the last couple of seconds of that, I'm not even thinking about it going in. And then it goes in. So 64, 67 feet, whatever that was. Oh, my gosh. It was an amazing putt.
Did I say on Friday, like, a good player probably thinks about anything that's sort of in range, that's makeable, I can make this. And a bad player thinks anything of any distance, I can miss that. And I was thinking about Spawn, wanting Spawn to win very much. Like, no missed putt to me would have been a gimme. Like, 1 foot. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm standing over that ball and, like, staring at it and just sort of like this, because you know what it means if you make it.
Yeah.
And I'd be very relieved to not have to make that second putt.
Rory missed a few 3-footers last year in the same tournament to cost him the tournament, really. So, It can happen. I just know he's such a good putter. I just felt like he, whatever, it's close, he'll be fine. But then it goes in, and it was just
the big mystery of the whole thing is how or why the caddy did not release the umbrella at the moment of the putt going in the hole. You've got Spawn, who just, like, instinctively throws his putter, like, just and the caddy basically celebrates it, but he never lets go of the umbrella. I just was so desperate for traction on this.
The umbrella
on Twitter last night. Like, how does the umbrella? I've got a couple of theories.
Okay,
I don't think any of them really should be enough, because I don't know how you don't.
Right.
He's not the player, but he might as well be, and he never lets go of the umbrella. I don't know. 803-0550. We'll talk to Joe Goodberry next hour about the Bengals and talk about different things, Stanley Cup, NBA, baseball, and more on the U.S. Open throughout the day. Would love your calls. Lines are open. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
2 putts.
Final round Sundays in U.S. Open history. J.J. Spaun closes the deal with a birdie at the last.
That's pretty good. I think a lot of golf calls can be really clunky. Just don't really work, I would say. That was really good, though, Dan Hicks. How about one? Two putts is all he needs. How about one? And the rest of it's just dead on.
Yeah. They often...
And the crowd behind him. Wow.
Maybe I assume too much in feeling like they're often overly rehearsed. But I feel like, if you got a good idea who's winning, you might, what am I going to want to say here?
Yeah.
And
it's the Nance legacy.
Yeah. They just sort of come off in this, like, okay, that's good, it's fine, but... were you writing these down in the hotel room last night or something? Yeah, I don't know. That just sounded, of course, you don't know he's going to make the putt. Yeah, I liked it too.
Perfect. The crowd is so great. And it really was one of the most, what does he say? Unlikely final rounds. Yeah. When does that happen? When a guy shoots 40 and then wins, and gets it right. Birdies the last 2 holes. That's definitely unlikely. He's correct.
I love the reactions. I didn't listen to it, but I saw Hatton with captions. He was doing an interview as that putt is going in, and he sort of blew his mind. McIntyre, who's waiting to see if he's going to be involved in a playoff, which isn't going to happen until Monday morning, his reaction was just tremendous. Mm-hmm. Sitting there watching the monitor, just wow, like just like all of us watching wherever we were at our Father's Day gatherings. If that's where you were, that's where we were, and just holy cow, that went in.
Yeah, right. You can't be mad.
Right.
It gets him to -1. Somebody broke par. You can't really be mad. Seems like the guy's really likable. I think maybe a lot of golfers were like McIntyre right there, which is just, hats off, buddy.
Yep.
Here's Adam with us. Hi, Adam.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, thank you.
First off, love the show.
Thank you.
I just want to say, talking about the whole J.J. Spaun, that was an epic putt. And, Father's Day, it's great. I remember, going out with my dad during Father's Day. We used to play golf all the time, and, nobody's watching us. You hit those shots, and it's beautiful.
Yes. It's a really good feeling.
Those epic putts that nobody will ever see.
Right.
Those epic drives that nobody will ever see.
But they're still important, right?
Exactly.
Thanks, Adam. That's right. I do a podcast every week, ADP Chasing. Davis Maddock is one of the guys on the show, and he was talking about how he, week before last, made a 2 on a par 4. He holed out. He's playing with his friends, plays a lot of golf, and he holed out on a par 4. And I asked him about it, and he basically said, say what you want about what it is to do that. We will be getting together for many years to come, right. And this moment will come up. This was a moment that we all celebrated together, is the time I made the 2 on the par 4, from the fairway. And no, it's not the U.S. Open, but it's special. And so, golf is great for that. And, people play other sports too, and that can be special too. But there's, golf I think is maybe top of the list for this. And you can feel like you're a pro for a moment, on one shot,
right?
You can feel like, this is really great.
Yeah. Golf is equipped to give you that. Yeah. And, you can make whatever you want out of it. But it's very unlike just about anything else athletically that it can give you a moment when you're playing, you're playing your local track and you just hit a shot and you're like, wow, that felt great. That was a 170-yard 7-iron to within 10 feet. Look at that.
Yeah, we should have streamed it.
Right.
We should post that.
Right.
Billy is next. Hi, Billy.
Hey, guys, how you doing? Yeah, listen, same thing. I'm just going to talk about the golf. I'm one guy that's a little disappointed. Not disappointed. I'm so happy Spawn won, but I did live bet McIntyre when he was 3 back, and I got lucky to hedge out. I had to take a big chance because everybody was right there, and I just seen it coming for Spawn. The way he's been playing lately and stuff like that. But I mean, seeing those guys drop shot after shot after shot when there was about 5 or 6 guys that went under, and every single time they changed the score, they dropped a shot. And guys, I don't know about you. I follow all sports. I watch them all. And this is going to be tough what I say, but I have never seen a sport where guys choke down the stretch more than golfers. And I've been watching it a long time now, and for them to play 70 holes great and then hit the net 71 and 72 when they need that drive down the middle out of bounds. I mean, it's just crazy how often it happens. It really is. But to get back to Spawn, very simply put, guys, besides maybe the Blue Jays winning the World Series in 91-92 or 92-93 and the Raptors, those are big moments here in Toronto. But I got to tell you this, guys. I turned 66 in July, and I can't think of a time of watching any sport at any time how I've been more happier to see a guy win than J.J. Spawn. Really, really, what a humble guy. I wish every athlete in the world was like this guy. You could tell he didn't even know how to celebrate when he hit that putt. Should I throw the putter? And it came off awkward, but I'll just say, guys, that was one of the most enjoyable wins I have ever seen in my lifetime. And God bless J.J. Spawn.
I felt the same way. I felt great. I mean, I jumped up when he made that putt. I have taken a liking to him, and I would say many of the same things. I just don't know how the caddy doesn't lose the grip on the umbrella. I did get a couple of responses on Twitter. One person said, he's in the habit of keeping the player dry. Think about that moment. Do you think J.J. Spawn cared for 5 seconds whether he was getting wet?
Right.
It almost makes it better.
You can do the job while you should be doing the job, but the job is over in that moment. Just keeping him dry doesn't matter anymore.
You might have an instinct that if you let go of an umbrella, it could injure somebody. Like you sort of raise your hands and let go of it, and it goes skyward.
The wind catches it, and
that could be. Maybe you would. Does this hold water? Maybe you would think. You would know not to do that because it could be an injury risk. Or it says Srixon on the top, and his hat does too, and he put the hat right back on when he took it off. And so maybe they were very serious about making sure the sponsor got paid off. So the umbrella, like you see the two guys hugging, and really from above you just see the umbrella with the name. So there's a big day for that company. I don't know.
That holds more water than worrying about it turning into a flying projectile, I think.
Maybe it does.
That also may be just my own sort of jaded skepticism coming through, but yeah. I mean, because, whether you're worried about the umbrella, you could just get away and oh no, we lost the umbrella. It's okay, you just won the U.S. Open. Okay?
It's on eBay today.
It's not that big a deal. You can get another one.
You just drop it. You can just drop it.
Right.
And it's not going to hurt anybody.
Right. Well, it was an incredible moment, and I you get to know more about these people when they're in the eye of it, like he was for a lot of the weekend, and even the whole tournament, right? I mean, he's the first round leader, and then turbulence to start Sunday morning, but still, or Sunday afternoon. I did see one account of someone who ran into him, maybe within the last year or so, practicing at, for all intents and purposes, the way it read to me, he's practicing at the Golf Dome driving range.
Scottsdale?
Yeah.
Is it that tweet?
Yeah. And just I like to be out with it keeps me grounded to be here and not at some private club or some whatever. I'm just going to go hit balls. Just going to get the little tokens, put them in the machine, fill the buckets up, and go hit some balls next to a bunch of hackers. That's really
He's kind of a version of John Daly in that way, without the cigarettes.
Yeah, it's you're right. That speaks to me. I love to hear somebody like that, because golf. One thing as much as I'm enjoying playing, like the highest levels of it, even locally, I just feel like it's so unattainable to so much of our population that freaks me out. So hearing somebody who's at the top of the profession is just out there with, bus drivers practicing, that works for me.
And his daughter is sick all night. And overnight before the final round,
3 a.m, run to the drugstore on Father's Day Eve. No less.
On Father's Day.
Well, right. It is actually Father's Day.
Yeah.
Then. Right.
I mean, those places are open at 3. That's good. I guess they would be. I guess a drugstore could be open at, 24/7, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't all close in Pittsburgh, like in.
I know. I don't want to say which location or which store, but I knew when the kids were little. I knew which pharmacy was open if I needed it at some weird hour.
Mm-hmm. Joe is next. Hi, Joe.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
I went down on Friday and walked that entire course at Oakmont, and it is just the most brutal golf course that you could possibly try to play. Super fast. The rough is just incredible. The one thing that struck me as I was watching on Sunday is that 17th hole. They kept calling it the easiest hole on the course. That drivable par 4. That was probably the most difficult hole I watched all day. We sat there for like an hour watching groups come through, and nobody hits that green. If you hit the green, it's like it's a feat of I don't know. It's such a small hole or small green, and it's really tough to hit. I mean, I don't know.
Tough to hit and hold. Really, that's the thing. You might be able to hit it, but are you going to be able to stay there?
Well, it's the easiest hole because it's going to have the lowest scoring average to par, right? Like that's
right.
You don't have to go for the green off the tee on that hole if you don't want to. But guys are doing it. I mean, Spawn's ball looked like it could have gone in. It just was like almost exactly right, perfectly on line. So many great moments late. Even when, I wanted him to win, but he had a 5-way tie for the lead with 6 to 8 holes left. How great is that? Who cares how many under or over par it is?
Right.
That's just the best. Every storyline's different. I love the guy who said he bet McIntyre, because when McIntyre, even before he finished out on 18, like this is the bet right now is this guy. Not based on odds. He might have been the favorite. He probably should have been the favorite. Right there where Spahn and Burns and Hovland had like 2 or 3 holes left. Getting in at +1. Look at what's happening, but Spahn beat him. Look what he had to do to beat him. So, really good. Joe Goodberry coming up at 4 on the Bengals. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. This is WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
We have the NBA tonight, Game 5, Indiana at Oklahoma City, Series 2. Oklahoma City is favored by 9 at home. The bettors have not quit the Thunder, even though they've been in tough here. 8:30 for that one. Apparently the starting lineups, the introductions have not been shown through 4 games, but they will be tonight if that's what you're into.
Huh.
I love the intros.
Yeah, I wonder why that is.
Bulldog, we just don't have time. We've got to get more ads in.
Yeah.
They pay the bills.
They have been in tough. I mean, it took a pretty furious late fourth quarter there for them to
not go down 3-1.
Yeah, not go down 3-1, Oklahoma City. Yeah.
Yep. So that's tonight. Joey's been mentioning it. Shohei Ohtani, Joe has been mentioning it, has been he'll pitch tonight for the Dodgers at home against San Diego, 10-10. So, you can bounce back and forth.
Not bother watching that because it's starting too late.
Well, you might just want to see a couple innings.
Yeah.
maybe.
That's right. Yeah, 10-10. I mean, yeah, you get a few batters in there, probably. Yeah, make that work.
Stanley Cup will be tomorrow, Game 6. I didn't see any of Game 5.
It was the least interesting game of the whole series, I would say, so far. Just very much a game where Florida got in front and then nothing happened for a long time. Really, it was just a pretty dull, just smothering, respect. They played a good defensive game, but it just wasn't. This series between Edmonton and Florida, second time around after last year, has been, the first 4 games were just, to me, almost breathtaking is probably overdoing it, but really, really good. Just a lot of drama, a lot of skill, a lot of talent, speed, nasty. It just has had everything that I think most hockey fans really like. Saturday night was just kind of like, ugh. It's not much happened.
Good road game?
Yeah, right. Good road game.
Florida, I think, has to be the better team here through 5. I mean,
yeah,
their Game 4 loss was pretty brutal. I mean, up 3-0, and then you still get it to overtime and lose. And Edmonton was blown out in Game 3. Something close to that in Game 5 at home. So I don't know. I like the idea of betting Edmonton at 2-1 down. Now I think it's harder. It's hard to see Florida losing these, both of these 2 games.
It is. But I'll say again, I think I said this on Friday before we got to the weekend, or maybe it was even before Game 4 on Thursday night. Edmonton was down 3-0 in this series. Like last year, they won 3 in a row. So I still wouldn't want to pull anything off the table, but Florida's been better. It doesn't mean they got to win tomorrow night, but they've been the better team. I think that's fair.
Joe Goodberry today coming up on the enigmatic Cincinnati Bengals. Is that a good word? Or are they completely predictable in how they will almost always run into these kind of predicaments with their players, where their commitment is being severely questioned? That's not enigmatic. That's just sort of pathetic.
Right. They predictably find themselves on the wrong side of these things pretty often. Although Joe, from what I've been able to garner on Twitter, Joe has been really aggressively following, as you would expect him to, especially the situation with the rookie Stewart, and just how commonplace what the Bengals are trying to get in the contract is around the league with other first-round rookies and that kind of thing. Like the Bengals' reputation, I have a feeling, this is what I've gleaned off of Joe's social media, is that a lot of people are assuming the Bengals are in the wrong because of kind of how you just framed that. Because this is what they do, right? They have a certain reputation, and so if anyone's going to botch, a rookie pay scale contract, we'll leave it to the Bengals. But it sounds like they might be a victim of their reputation as much as anything.
Okay.
That's what's going on here right now.
No better person to ask to have analyze it. Joe Goodberry coming up after sports. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. We'll look for your calls again as we go through the day. But next, it's Joe Goodberry here on WGR.
The Buffalo Sabres have announced that defenseman Rasmus Dahlin will represent Sweden at the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Italy. And Team USA released the first 6 players for their Winter Olympic Games team, including Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Austin Matthews, Charlie McAvoy, Brady Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk. Game 5 of the NBA Finals tonight in Oklahoma City, as the Pacers and Thunder have split the series so far with 2 wins apiece. Tip-off is set for 8:30 p.m. Shohei Ohtani is the Dodgers starting pitcher tonight against the Padres for the first time since 2023 following his recovery from the elbow injury. First pitch is set for 10:10 p.m. at Dodger Stadium. After a blockbuster trade deal yesterday between the Giants and Red Sox, Rafael Devers will likely split time between third base and designated hitter for the Giants, but no specific conversations have occurred as of yet, according to Maria Guardado, San Francisco Giants beat reporter for MLB.com. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tomorrow night in Florida as the Panthers lead the series 3-2. Face-off is set at 8 with 7:30 pregame. All of the action right here on WGR Sports Radio 550. Coverage of the Stanley Cup Final on WGR is presented by Fiegel Carr and Joyce, your border attorneys, and brought to you in part by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
If you wrap foil around that, just like the little bit of the base part of the banana where the fruit is, wrap foil around that top and they will last longer.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Who needs your bananas to last longer, though?
Look, I don't want to go to the store every other day for bananas.
They're 8 cents each.
What the hell are you talking about? What is going on?
You're going to wrap them in foil?
They're better when they're just a little green. Yeah.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Too much work.
Not that much trouble, really.
Too much work.
Says the guy that's got a spreadsheet with 3,000 fantasy teams.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's fair. That is fair. Welcome back. Lots of different stuff to talk about today. U.S. Open, NBA, NHL Finals Series, always the NFL. Some baseball. Let's do some NFL right here. Joe Goodberry with us, the, I would say, preeminent analyst when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals right here in our area. BengalsOnTheBrain.com. Joe, how's your summer going so far?
It's going good. Lots of softball, lots of preparing for the kids to be off now. That's going to change everything, but I guess that's part of the deal.
It's like everything. There's good and bad, you know. When they're home, I can sleep in a little bit. That's good. When they're home, they're home.
Midnights I work some midnight shifts, though, also. And so when they're home, that's not good for them.
Oof, that is tough. Right.
Yeah. Well, good luck with all this, Joe.
Thanks.
Let's talk about the Bengals here. So they're in the news. I mean, this is just kind of like a regular thing with Cincinnati when it comes to off-the-field stuff. Do you think the discourse on Shamar Stewart or even also on Hendrickson has generally been fair? I mean, it's very anti-team.
Right. I think it's a different answer for each one. For Hendrickson, I think it's been very fair. I think you're talking about a Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year, 17.5 sacks, 2 years in a row. Has most, I mean, in terms of production, up there with any pass rusher in the league over the last few years. He's been the 4 straight Pro Bowl for you. He's the best free agent signing you've ever had. He's showing no signs of slowing down. If anything, weirdly, he's gotten better over the last few years. To get to this point now and say, we really only want to give you a 1-year deal, or we're haggling over guaranteed money, or maybe $2 million per year. It's like, what are you doing? Get it done. Competing franchises would get it done and be happy to do so. So it's fair when you look at that and you say, Bengals, what are you doing? Pull your head out of your butt and let's go. But the Shamar Stewart thing is different, very different. It took a lot of digging because I was listening to the national reporting and I was confused. The national narrative is that the Bengals are trying to do something that nobody's ever done before, and it's completely unfair, and Shamar Stewart and his camp need to make their stand. And I was like, wow, okay. As a union guy myself of 17 years, I'm like, this sounds like serious stuff. They must be trying to put something in here that shouldn't be in the contract. So I did some digging, and I poked around, and I asked, and I said, what's going on? And the deal is that the Bengals want to put into the contract from now on, they want to set a new precedence, which is a big thing for contract arguing, but they want to set a new precedence that if a player defaults in their contract, which means you go skateboarding and you break your neck and you can't play football anymore, or if you get arrested, or if you get suspended for 6 games for gambling, whatever it may be, your future guaranteed money becomes voided. It is still earnable, but it is no longer guaranteed. And I said, okay, so what do you guys currently do? Why is this new? And they're like, well, we never really gave out guarantees past the first year other than the first-round picks, so we never really worried about it. But now at least 20 teams around the league do this. The Eagles do it for every single contract. I actually looked at Saquon Barkley's new deal, and I said, yeah, that's in there too. Jahad Campbell, first-round pick, yeah, it's in there as well. So I did a lot of digging. I looked at other contracts. I looked at comparable players. I looked at players drafted at 16 and 18, because Shamar Stewart's at 17, and they have it in their deal. I talked to the agent. I said, all right, so what's going on? Why is this such a big deal? And he says, well, we don't want to have to do let them set a new precedent for us, for all the first-round picks behind us to follow, unless they want to give us something, unless they want to basically give us the signing bonus a little bit earlier rather than splitting it amongst 2 payments, which is very common around the league. So it just sounds like negotiating, I said. So you're just negotiating. All right, fine. You guys will figure this out. But at the same time, Shamar Stewart is the only rookie around the NFL that is actively, voluntarily, I should say, not participating in off-season workouts. Not the rookie minicamp, not the voluntary stuff, and then they just had mandatory minicamp last week, and he left a day early, and didn't participate. So they're making an active choice not to do that and going, in my opinion, a little bit aggressive. And if I will say, because he's probably not listening to this, the agent is talking to everyone he can to control this narrative.
Yeah, this sounds like, I alluded to this as we were taking the break just in advance of you coming on with us, Joe, that it feels like a situation where the Bengals' reputation is sort of, it's pretty convenient to just sort of settle into, well, they must be wrong because it's the Bengals. They bungle this kind of stuff. Sorry to be so cute here, but it's not uncommon. But in this case, it sounds like maybe they've got a lot of company and a lot of other players have just sort of rolled along with it.
I agree completely. I think that's what it is. I think it's easy to say, oh, the Bengals are doing Bengals things again, because they do Bengals things all the time. I mean, it's not far-fetched that they would mess this up or try to do something stupid. But once I did some digging, and listen, I call the Bengals out all the time on whether that's overinflating cap hits for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and making it so you don't have enough money to spend on other players, or sitting on $32 million in cap space right now while you got Joe Burrow at quarterback. Like, what are we doing? There's a lot of things to call the team out about. To me, once I was done doing the digging, I'm like, this is nothing. What are we talking about here? It'll get figured out. The bigger news to me is that the guy that needs reps. Right. We all saw the Shamar Stewart tape and read the evaluations. The guy needs his reps, and the Bengals have a starting defensive end spot open after Sam Hubbard retired, and he's competing with Miles Murphy, a former first-round pick, and Joseph Osai, who they just gave a $7 million one-year deal to after he was second in the team in sacks last year. If I'm Shamar Stewart's camp, I want him there competing to win that job.
Well, sometimes it takes a lot of work, a lot of certain moments along the way to change the reputation. And if the two things are connected, what's happening with Hendrickson is just sort of contributing to the narrative. And maybe Stewart and his camp have just sort of latched onto that. That's kind of what I'm hearing here. So, I mean, how does it end, Joe? Like, does Hendrickson have to happen, or are they completely separate? How does this end?
It's funny because the last report yesterday, Jeremy Fowler on Father's Day said the Bengals had picked up or beginning talks with Trey Hendrickson again in an effort to get a deal done and get an extension done. And we're all like, great, that's awesome. And then I sat back and I said, you know what? I wonder if they'll put this default clause in Trey Hendrickson's contract. If they're like, well, we can set a new precedent and we can do it with Trey. We can figure it out there. And then we say, okay, Shamar, now we've got a player that has this. What's your argument now? If your biggest argument is that you don't want to start a new precedent, and Trey, he has signed a couple of weird deals already in Cincinnati, to be honest with you. We're not sure about his agent either. It's funny. But I could see them saying, hey, Trey, we'll give you the money. We'll give you the multiple years guaranteed. Will you set this new precedent? Are you okay with that? And if he is, then off we are to the races. And I would assume Shamar Stewart would follow right after. But that's probably pie in the sky. The Bengals still have to get a deal done with Trey Hendrickson, and so far they've been unable to.
How about the quote from Stewart? If I'm not perfectly accurate here, maybe you'll know. but they don't want to win games. They want to win arguments. Like,
yeah.
I mean, what a line.
It's awesome, actually.
It is. It's a great line.
From a guy who hasn't even put on the gear yet.
That's true. Because we have said this. That's what's funny is like a lot of critical analysts have said, this team, they're a bunch of lawyers. They're a whole family of lawyers in the organization in the front office that are more interested in winning arguments than they are football games. And we have said this for years. So when he said it, we're like, whoa, either he knows this already or they're very in tune with what the narrative is and they're going to push it as hard as they can. Either way, that thing is going to last forever. That quote we're going to be talking about that in 3 years when he's up for an extension all the way until his career is over or maybe even further. We're going to be like, Shamar Stewart, he may have been out of line, but he was right.
It was deep. I went right to my mirror after that because I sort of felt like maybe this could be said of me. I mean, am I trying to do what's right here, what I think is right, no matter what? I mean, what kind of sacrifices am I, what kind of, damage am I doing, all these kinds of things. But, also think about James Cook here for a minute. Bulldog and I disagree on what will happen with Cook, I think, because I just kind of feel like the Bills don't want to win arguments. They want to win games.
They want peace.
They've won so many games, and they can afford to do it, literally and figuratively, thinking of the cap and whatever. We'll work something else out with someone else later. So I kind of think they'll get a deal done with Cook because I think maybe if I'm not giving them too much credit, their MO is, all right, well, this player is good, and we win when he's on the field, so why mess it up?
Right, why rock the boat? The Bengals are the exact opposite. They're going to put you through pain. They have to. I've said earlier this offseason, they have to disrespect you before they'll actually give you a fair offer to sign an extension.
It's a good line too.
It's funny because when last year we were talking about MVP, we're getting down to the end. I think we might have talked around that time actually, and I kept trying to make the case that what Burrow is doing with this franchise, where they're basically putting one hand behind their back, everyone that works for that franchise. In order to succeed, you got to be able to do it with your offhand. And Burrow, here are the numbers. Here's what they're doing. I keep making that case. If they get close again, or if they're in the playoffs, hopefully. I mean, if you're not again with Burrow and Chase and Higgins, there's a problem. Which there may be, but if they're in that again, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to say all the stuff we say about the Bengals are true. It is true. They are a clown show most of the time, and if Burrow can drag this organization to where they need to go and even get close to it, I hope we remember that part of the argument when we get there.
Yeah, on Hendrickson. It is just circling back to that. It's interesting to me, aging pass rusher, the production, you can't argue with it. It's been very top of the league. But for the reputation the Bengals have, of course, they look like the Bengals. Division rival over here, the Steelers, with a similar player, similar age. They're in the same fight the Steelers are in with T.J. Watt, but it doesn't feel like the Steelers get made fun of for it. Whereas, this goes on with the Bengals, and it's kind of business as usual. But it is two very comparable situations, I think.
It is. Actually, there's a lot of stuff I look at to compare the Bengals spending and where they could spend more and where they could be better with their money. And the two teams that come up as comparables the most are the Packers and the Steelers. And you're right, those two organizations don't get looked at the same way. But the Steelers were dealing with this. I don't remember the last time when T.J. Watt was up for an extension when he actually got it. They were at a stalemate. He was holding out during camp, and he eventually bypassed his agent and the team and just got them together and said, listen, get the deal done. Enough is enough. The money is done. I'm ready to sign. And they worked it out that day. He had to go in there himself, which players aren't normally in the negotiations. He had to figure it out and finalize it. And that's because the Steelers were kind of weird. They're similar. They weren't giving out guaranteed money past year one. They weren't giving out these rolling guarantees. The Bengals don't either. They did for Jamar Chase. They did for Joe Burrow. They partially kind of sort of did for T. Higgins. He really took a very team-friendly deal. But you're right. The narrative is very different. But to the Bengals, they always feel like they need to get a deal. And yet, at the same time, they don't always get deals, is my biggest criticism of them. You signed Jamar Chase a year ago. Not only do you save money because all these other receivers didn't make more, you can put that against his rookie contract. You signed T. Higgins 2 years ago. His cap hit's probably $20 million a year. Trey Hendrickson right now is due to make $16 million this year. Even if you give him $32 million per year, that $16 million averages in, you're going to bring that average down to $28 million. These are deals. Take them when they're there rather than forcing yourself a year later or putting the franchise tag on Trey Hendrickson in a year. If you force him to play on it and then tag him because he has another good year, that tag's going to be $35 million. Save the money now. The last year of every deal is fake. You can cut a guy when you get there. Stop worrying about dead cap. I'll tell you right now, I've talked to people that know the Bengals, the way they look at money. They laugh at the Eagles for how much dead cap space they have, while the Eagles are winning Super Bowls and the Bengals are sitting here with the lowest amount of dead cap space. Stop worrying about the wrong things.
Good stuff, Joe. Joe Goodberry. I love the idea of the Bengals being in the same bucket with the Packers and the Steelers. The Steelers have scandals constantly and almost doesn't even matter. It's just like they're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think the stripes help the Bengals. I mean, that's a hot take, but the clothes make the man, Joe. I mean, Green Bay and Pittsburgh, two classic uniforms. I mean, just like you go to any random department store anywhere in the country, if we still have these places, and there's going to be 4 or 5, NFL, whatever, towels on Packers, Steelers, Cowboys. I don't think the Bengals are going to. No. The stripes, the clothes make the man here. I don't know. I like that they're different, but. All right, why did I waste your time with this?
1981, they changed to the stripes, right? They went to the Super Bowl that first year.
Yes.
At this point, the helmets are pretty classic. They haven't really changed them. They changed because the design of the helmets have changed. But I would say at this point, they're pretty classic, especially compared to a lot of the newer franchises.
All right. The stripes on the pants, maybe. Let's change.
I don't like the stripes on the pants.
Down the side,
I think they can do better.
Down the side.
Tough, yeah.
Let's go.
So what stood out other than all this drama that we've already covered here, Joe? What stood out from OTAs through mandatory minicamp and into the summer break here with the Bengals? Is it really just these two guys that aren't there? But what other storylines are interesting here as we head into the summer?
The biggest storyline is probably not even that interesting. Is that Joe Burrow is finally healthy for this portion of the offseason. He's never been here for this, ever. It's either been an appendectomy or a knee or a wrist or something, COVID year, his rookie year, something keeping him out of this portion of camp. They said they look right now, they're Dan Pitcher, their offensive coordinator, said it feels like they're more in October right now than it is in June because they're humming on offense. And there's no pads, there's no hitting. It is a new defensive coordinator, so they're probably figuring things out there. They just mean in their rhythm, their timing, their adjustments to things, his ability to move through the pocket because he's not dealing with any lower leg injuries or anything like that. His wrist isn't a major issue. He says it's something he still has to deal with and manage, but he says he feels so much better than he was last year at this time. These are all good things, and I think one of the biggest things so far is the receiving core. Of course, you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. But they're like, whoa, look, Jermaine Burton may have matured a little bit here. Even in you see him on in the locker room talking after practices, and he doesn't have these bags under his eyes, and he looks well rested. He's speaking coherently. Like there were signs last year that this guy was dealing with some things for sure. Was having all night benders at the casino, which there were pictures of that online. But you're not getting those vibes right now. And they're saying, yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's not just playing outside receiver, running vertical. He's moving into the slot, he's going into motion, and he doesn't have to be a number two. Like at this point last year, we're talking Jermaine Burton. Is he the replacement for T. Higgins? I think that pressure is completely off of him now. Just be Jermaine Burton, and that's a fun skill set to add to this receiving room. And Andre Yosivach, they're talking about him. He's taking another step in year 3 for him, which should be his biggest year. Year 3, you should be fully NFL ready and good to go. That's a good number 3 or 4, depending on how that shakes out. They feel much better about the receiver room than I think they have in recent years, and that's already a receiver room that's been really dang good. And add in Mike Gesicki, who Dan Pitcher also said, we know how to use him now. It took him half the year last year. T. Higgins was missing games. He'd show up on injury reports on Friday night and they have to refigure out the game plan over the weekend. That happened 3 times last year. And they would insert Gesicki into a lot of those plays. But they said the second half of last year is when they really realized how to use Gesicki. And they said now he's just I saw a reporter today said Gesicki probably had the most catches of anyone during the mandatory minicamp. And I don't know if he's going to have a break. I don't know if he can get any more targets or any more yards with having Higgins and Chase, but he's still a good player for them, big impact player for this offense.
Sounds like you think Burton might be worth an 18th round underdog pick.
That could be a really big piece if he gets his head together, because there was always a ton of talent there. I don't think anybody ever really questioned it. Like right up there with the best Alabama receivers, but just his head was a problem.
Yeah, no doubt. And now, so he's just going to rotate in. Maybe he can, figure it out, take it slow. And Higgins misses time. So, like that,
Yep.
You're right, Mike. That might be the stash there where it's like, Higgins, he goes down, and who do you put out there as the number 2 receiver? Andre Yoshivas's never really been that type. He can fit in. But if you're looking for a guy that could step into a starting role, it is Jermaine Burton. The
contingent value, Bulldog, if we lose Higgins or even Chase, dare I say it. Joe, so what's a good year? Like, they were out of the playoffs last year, all the money invested in the big three, the other, more controversial stuff, Baltimore in their division, if not also Pittsburgh for this. It doesn't feel like for Cincinnati just making the playoffs is a good year. Maybe a playoff win, but they've been to the Super Bowl, unlike the Bills and the Ravens. So maybe it's just got to be that. I don't know. What would qualify this year?
I think people are looking at a playoff run again, and anything less would be disappointing. Not making the playoffs would put Zach Taylor directly on the hot seat, obviously, and they'd have to make changes, I think. And as long as Burrow's doesn't go down with an injury, right? If everything is healthy like last year and you still don't make it, huge problem. But I expect they're going to be fighting for that division crown. I expect they will be fighting for a playoff spot, and then you get in there and anything can happen, as we know. We've all seen it from both sides, whether it's losing quickly or making a run at this thing to lose in heartbreak fashion. We've both been on those sides of that one. But I expect this defense, that's the big thing that everyone's looking at. Can the defense be better? It was so bad last year. They were the Bengals lost games. Historically, they should have won. Where the rest of the league was like 122-2 in these type of games, the Bengals went 3-4. Like you give up 35 points and you score 34. It was mind-boggling how they lost some of these games. They fired the defensive coordinator. They bring in new position coaches. They spend draft picks, the first 2 draft picks, defensive end Shamar Stewart. We'll see how much of an impact he is. We talked about him already. Linebacker Demetrius Knight in round 2. I think bringing back Al Golden, who was Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, who was with the Bengals when they went to that Super Bowl. He was the linebackers coach then. Bringing him back, his job is get these young guys to hit the ground running and play fast. Lou Anarumo had a very complex scheme. It was great against good quarterbacks in the playoffs, but you need to win those first 17 games to even get there. And I think it was hard for them. Once you start paying these stars on offense, we're like, all right, all these young guys got to play on D. It's got to be cheap players playing for you. You got to insert these guys. And they couldn't grasp the defense. Some of that was the players. A lot of that was Lou Anarumo. And they said they didn't have clear answers for situations that would arise during games. But Al Golden's supposed to be the opposite of that. Communicator that gets everyone on the same page, that can get them playing fast. They're accepting they're going to have less talent on defense. They're accepting these young guys are going to make mistakes. But can you get them to play to the best of their abilities to get the ball back to this offense? I think if they are at least top 20, it's a much different outcome this year.
Joe, real quick before you go, how much, if at all, did the Steelers finally getting around to getting Rodgers into the fold raise your level of concern?
It did raise it, I guess, because I was looking at him like, I assumed it was inevitable because what are you going to go with Mason Rudolph? Like, what is going to happen here, right? So there's something had to take place. I did think the draft being in Pittsburgh next year, maybe they'll actually let Mike Tomlin tank a year and get in position to get a quarterback because they always win 9 games with Tomlin, right? So I thought, maybe they'll let it happen. Maybe they'll have a plan and see it through. But then they signed Aaron Rodgers, of course. And I think Rodgers is still starting level, and they didn't have that. And if you have a starting level quarterback and your talent is decent in the right areas, and I think they are, their defense is good. They have a number 1 receiver. They got a good tight end. I like Jalen Warren at running back. Their offensive line has spent a bunch of picks there recently. It should be much improved. If that's the case, they're fighting for a playoff spot again because Tomlin gets these guys going. And that stinks because I wanted it to just be Bengals-Ravens looking at it on paper, but I guess it'll be a fight again.
Interesting chunk of the Bengals schedule, weeks 13 through 15, home or at the Ravens on Thanksgiving night because when they play Baltimore at night, it's always in Baltimore. Then here in Buffalo, December 7th, then home to the Ravens. So they get the Ravens twice in a little more than 3 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks, weeks 13 through 15, Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore. Thank you, Joe. Great insight as always. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. Our pleasure. Joe Goodberry on the West Her Hotline. Bengals open at Cleveland if you're looking for something to do on September 7th, since the Bills play at night. head out to. I was just through Cleveland yesterday. Not a bad drive at all, Bulldog. 3 hours ish.
Yep. No, I know it.
You know that one.
I know it well. Yes. The weird little curve on the 90 right in the city there.
Actually, I shouldn't say I was in Cleveland then because I didn't. I got off on the
you got
271
to skip around that. Yeah,
off to Columbus.
Yeah.
So I guess I wasn't in Cleveland.
Fake news.
That's been rooted out. 803-0550. Are the Bengals scary to you, the Bills fan, thinking about this season? We'll get back to that and more as we continue. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Announced that defenseman Rasmus Dahlin will represent Sweden at the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Italy. And Team USA released the first 6 players for the Winter Games, including Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Austin Matthews, Charlie McAvoy, Brady Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk. Game 5 of the NBA Final tonight in Oklahoma City, as the Pacers and Thunder have split the series so far with 2 wins apiece. Tip-off is set for 8:30. Shohei Ohtani is the Dodgers' starting pitcher tonight against the Padres for the first time since 2023, following recovery from his elbow injury. First pitch is set for 10:10 at Dodgers Stadium. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I believe the best quarterback right now is Josh Allen. I think he's become the guy. For years, it was Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Brady, that generation, once they went, Mahomes took over. The start of Mahomes' career was absolutely mind-blowing. The last couple of years, though, he's not been that guy, and really it's been Josh Allen. I think you can make a case for a couple of other people, but Allen's combination of freak show wow plays, like everything he can do with his arm, the cheat code that is his short yardage ability, like his athleticism, the fact that he basically does not take sacks. I mean, one of the lowest sack rates, pressure to sack rates you're going to find anywhere. Like utterly absurd analytics numbers behind him as well. I think Allen's the guy right now.
Sam Monson, we talked to Scott Barrett from Fantasy Points on Friday, and he's at times been critical of some of the Bills' moves, but he also slipped in. He thinks Allen is number one. I don't think there's anything wrong with that take. It's interesting. Is this maybe, Sam knows his data. He much of his analysis is going to be data-driven, and I like that about Sam. I think it's interesting that we're at a point in time, if this isn't going overboard, where the numbers crowd, I guess, has a seat at the table, to say the least, when it comes to that particular debate. Best quarterback. Because winning, while Allen has won a lot, just not what matters most. That kind of is how we always did it. It's how we always broke ties, whether your team won. It got Tom Brady to be everybody's greatest ever, even when Manning was outplaying him year after year in the stats. So have times changed in that way? I don't think anybody wants to ding Mahomes much, but no. like Sam said, the package with Allen, he thinks justifies ranking him first.
Yeah. It feels a little bit to me, is not to speak for, it's not why I think Sam Monson or Scott Barrett are saying Allen is the best. But when I hear it, it feels a little bit like the sound of, it's time for you to go win one. You're the best guy. I'm telling you, the data, my eyeballs, some combination thereof. Boy, who's better than that guy? Go win one. Like, you're on deck, dude. That's what that sounds like to me. It's time for you to go win one. You can say the same thing about Lamar Jackson, of course. Two prominent MVPs. Jackson's got 2. Allen's got the 1 now. Who haven't been able to get past Kansas City for whatever reason. Burrow's the only one who's beaten Mahomes in that spot so far. And, Jalen Hurts, but that was in the Super Bowl. I'm talking about on the AFC side of the bracket. And it feels like another way to say it's time. Like you're the best. Go. The only thing standing in your way now, the only really leverage a person who wants to push back against that has left is that he hasn't won one yet. So time to go do that. Is what that makes me think when I hear that.
I think Chris Sims put Jackson first. So, maybe the Chiefs 2 years in a row, Kansas City's offense, Mahomes at the helm, just has not been that productive, even with all their winning. I feel like maybe the community, if you will, is certainly some are ready to, stick their necks out and say someone is better than Mahomes. You give us 2 years in a row where I mean, the passing stats are just so mid that maybe it's safe to say that now. Cincinnati, talking to Joe Goodberry, I still think, it's probably too simplistic because of the playoff loss and another loss and then whatever the Hamlin game was going to be, but you got a glimpse at Cincinnati's offense being too good for the Bills in that only the small part of that game that was played. That's still a scary proposition, I think, the Bengals, in a way that the Ravens are not, just because of the history, I mean, not that everybody would say that, but the Bills just don't have a significant win over the Bengals. They don't have any win over the Bengals in too long for you to draw on that. And the Bills have beaten Baltimore in the playoffs a couple times. So how would a 12-5 2-seed Bills versus 10-7 7-seed Bengals game strike you? That's a little scary.
Not ideal. not ideal. Not where I'd want to end up, I don't think. But I think that's entirely, certainly it's possible. I can't really speak to likelihood other than to just say, I do think the 7 seed for Cincinnati is realistic. I'd be sitting here today surprised if they had such a good year that they knocked Baltimore off of the perch in that division. I don't think Pittsburgh is ready to take their place or stay in the place that they've been here. The Bengals really have to take their place. The Steelers have had the last couple of years where they're the wild card team out of that division, a wild card team out of that division. I think the Bengals should be the favorite to do that at least. So, that's the 6 or the 7. So you're right in line there. It's all the more reason to really get after that 1 seed and just avoid that. Maybe somebody else takes them out for you. Maybe you can play them with a week of rest and they're coming into your place. If it gets there, I don't want any part of them in a wild card round.
We have just watched the no-hitter. It hasn't had the same gripping effect, in my opinion, than that Diamondbacks Braves game did a week or two ago. But in the College World Series, this Arkansas pitcher whose name I think is Gage Wood.
Yes.
Has thrown a no-hitter. He hit a batter in the 8th. That's the only player to reach base for Murray State. His glove bothers me, this pitcher.
I didn't even notice his glove.
So he's got it, 5 or 10 different areas on his glove. He's got the loose strings.
Oh.
I'm not a fan of the loose strings. Tighten that up.
They're not tied at all? They're just hanging loose?
They're hanging loose.
Wow, I don't know about that. Yeah, that's a problem. I hate it. I would tie 3 knots if those strings were too long.
You would be tying them all the time.
Yeah. Couldn't have.
And how many no-hitters have you thrown? Right? No.
Just 3.
Not in the College World Series. None in the College World Series.
No, these were in the low minors.
Yes, okay. Too many loose strings. Tighten that up,
Short season A-ball. No. Yeah, well, pretty cool. Yeah, and I thought he hit somebody in the 9th, too, here.
They reversed it because the guy didn't make an effort to get out of the way.
I see, okay. All right.
Gotcha. I believe.
Yep, so just that one base runner then. All right.
Yeah, this guy is very pumped up.
We were that close to the first perfect game in men's College World Series history.
I believe that's correct.
That had never happened.
We almost watched history.
Who could forget it? I'm going to forget it by
I've already forgotten it.
Yeah. What's this guy's name again?
Gage Wood.
Good thing you had
I guess I haven't forgotten it.
Yeah, no.
I'm still looking at it.
Don't rush to it.
We'll take a break. Later, Brian Koziol on the U.S. Open took some calls from listeners earlier on J.J. Spawn's win. How great was that? I guess not everybody loves the U.S. Open. Not too hard as much as maybe just not fair. You hit a ball like Burns did or Adam Scott did on, I think, the 11th hole yesterday that are just inches from great. I guess that's not great, though. And then they're in this grass that you just can't even see your feet.
Yeah, almost perfect is very common in golf. So it's all the more enhanced at something like this, but That's how it goes.
Great that Spawn on that 17th hole drive, the par 4, like he that ball has a look at the hole, but that ball did not run through into that kind of rough.
When I saw it cruise past the hole, that's what I thought was going to happen.
I think one of the announcers said, slow down.
Yeah.
But I guess it did. So great win for him. Really fun to watch, I think. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Lines are open at 803-0550. This is WGR.
Be scrambling for par. If you miss your landing spot, even coming from the fairways by a couple of yards, these greens, repel the ball into rough, and you're up against collars, and it just makes things, very, very tricky. So yeah, you gotta be totally on your game.
It was not Rory McIlroy's week at the U.S. Open, and there continues to be discussion about that he invites, I would say, about him and his media side, so to speak, at this point. I was driving 5 hours each way, Saturday and Sunday, this weekend, and listened to more U.S. Open coverage than anything else. And I did hear his entire press conference Saturday night after he was done. And he just talked about how he's frustrated with the perception that he doesn't do enough media. He's like, I don't have to. I do as much as I have to. I mean, that's how I choose to do it. And he was honest about it. And, it was a frustrating tournament for him. And the last question he got was, going into Sunday, what were you hoping for? And he said, I'm hoping to have a round that lasts less than 4.5 hours so I can go home. Then to get out of here. So pretty blunt.
Yeah.
He did also admit it. Maybe you knew this. I hadn't heard him refer to it, just other people and other kind of assumptions, that the Masters did take some of the edge off when he won.
Yeah.
He didn't feel as, maybe my word, dedicated after that.
Yeah. I thought that was a real emotional catharsis for him. Totally understandable, the Masters. And it would be understandable to me. I mean, I'm not a highly competitive person, but it would stand to reason that you're going to have a little time to work back up to being at like max edge after that. And so that's one of the reasons I thought I wouldn't want to, put money on him in a big event like this myself. The not talking stuff, for someone who's been, he was really like the face and voice of the PGA Tour versus the Live guys when that all started. And there was a lot said and written then that was taking something out of him, contributing to him, this stress he's under to be the face of the PGA Tour, go win a major for the first time in 10 years and all this sort of stuff. And I think it all just built up, and then he got it, and like, okay, you know what? I'm going to not keep doing all of that. And look, I can understand that. I can understand reporters being frustrated by him not talking, especially because he's been usually so cooperative and forthcoming, even in disappointment. But I think the pushback comes in part because he's been so accessible and now he's not. So you're taking something I'm counting on. It'd be like if the late Ken Hall ever stopped talking after games. All of a sudden, Bills reporters have been like, why is he not talking anymore? He always talks. He's the one guy I know I can count on. Where's Rory? I think, despite all of that, his behavior during this tournament took a lot. It took a lot out of him for me. Like him smashing tee markers and chucking clubs around. I understand the pressure and the stress, but man, a part of being at that level is being able to handle that. And I did not like seeing that behavior on the golf course from him. Just not. You want to be frustrated because you're not hitting the shots you want. Like, okay, but destroying stuff, throwing stuff, I don't know. Childish. That's a lot to come back from. He's earned a very good reputation, I think, within the game, and I think it doesn't take a lot to undo something like that. We'll see. I'm thinking now I'm going to remember that and look at him differently, but maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll get through the Open Championship and I'll forget about golf until next April, and then the Masters will come around and maybe he'll be easy to root for again. But it was not a good look for him.
Ryder Cup, though, and at the last Ryder Cup, he was in some screaming argument with, what was that? With a caddy or with somebody, remember that? In a parking lot, McIlroy?
Ooh,
I don't remember what it was about, or if I thought he was right, but he seemed like felt he was wronged about something, and he let somebody have it at that. So that doesn't have to be a criticism. Usually, though, the only time you see people really yelling at other people, like adults, is at kids' sporting events.
It's a very common place to see that behavior.
Yes, you do. You usually see it. People yelling at officials at, your kids' sporting events. That's just par for the course. Where else do you see? You go to the grocery store. You don't usually see people shouting at each other.
No, usually not. And there's usually not a 50-year-old person yelling at the teenager that's working the cash register. But when the teenager is a sports official, oh yeah, have at it.
It just gets so dumb sometimes, right? Like, I don't know. I don't need to give you the whole speech. If you want it.
Oh, I'm interested in the speech.
My way, and this doesn't have to be yours, is I want to be right. I definitely want the team that I drove here 5 hours to watch win. I won't tell you that I don't. But, if the kid wasn't out of bounds, then he wasn't out of bounds. I mean, that's if it's close, who am I to say? Maybe I didn't have the best look at it from my lounge chair. So when the parents all start talking, like not that I don't even think most do it, but there are always a few that sort of chime in on these calls, and
and they're sure they're right, even though they don't have a better vantage point than
they're
you
sure
did.
they're right, and they're going to yell at the adult in this case that I'm thinking of yesterday on the field to tell them that. Is it necessary? Does it ever work?
No,
it never works.
No,
just would make the person officiating the game more just annoyed with you and your team. Right? You could be right. Sometimes you're going to be right. People miss calls. But
I know
try to control yourself.
I know I have been right, and if it ever gets to the point where I was yelling at the official, I still feel like an idiot afterward. Even if I'm correct. It's like I really regret that, especially because I'm going to see this ref in the lobby, and it turns out that I know him.
Well, there's that.
Sorry, it's a very specific example now. Sorry. No, I'm not going to say it anymore. It
turns out that the ref is your son. That's awkward.
It's embarrassing. Yeah.
Is that Dad yelling at me about the tripping call that I missed? This is very, very weird now. 803-0550, JJ Spawn in the Open. How great was that? We'll talk about that, do some more different things. Football, we've got the NBA Finals tonight, Stanley Cup Finals tomorrow. Brian Koziol on the Open will join us for a recap in just over an hour. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR.
The Buffalo Sabres have announced that defenseman Rasmus Dahlin will represent Sweden at the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Italy, and Team USA released the first 6 players for their Winter Games team, including Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Austin Matthews, Charlie McAvoy, Brady Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk. Game 5 of the NBA Final tonight in Oklahoma City as the Pacers and Thunder have split the series so far with 2 wins apiece. Tip-off is set for 8:30. Shohei Ohtani is the Dodgers starting pitcher tonight against the Padres for the first time since 2023, following his recovery from the elbow injury. First pitch is set for 10:10 at Dodgers Stadium. After a blockbuster trade yesterday between the Giants and Red Sox, Rafael Devers will likely split time between third base and the designated hitter position for the Giants, but no specific conversations have occurred as of yet, according to Maria Guardado, San Francisco Giants beat reporter for MLB.com. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tomorrow night in Florida as the Panthers lead the series 3-2. Face-off is at 8 with a 7:30 pregame with all the action right here on WGR Sports Radio 550. Coverage of the Stanley Cup Final on WGR is presented by Fiegel, Carr, and Joyce, your border attorneys, and brought to you by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
All right, what's the report from outside?
I was outside for maybe 3 minutes. I counted 8 Q-tips. It's got to be one person that just throws their Q-tips out the window when they're done using them in their cars.
It's Mike Schopp.
One person?
More than one person using Q-tips and throwing them outside?
I don't think I use 8 Q-tips in a year.
I think I've never used 8 Q-tips.
And the Bulldog.
What the hell is going on out there? I don't think I want to work in a place where people roll their windows down if they're using Q-tips for Lord knows what and just throw them on the ground.
Well, you do.
What, is it the 70s?
Oh, that's not very nice.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Driving on the highway 65 miles an hour. I get a little left in my soda from the fast food drive out the window. That was the 70s. Who gives an F about anything?
Throw a burrito out the window.
Nothing matters. 2025, what are you doing?
On WGR.
Throwing Q-tips out of your car.
Sports Radio 550.
I would imagine that Rafael Devers trade would be a good test of your loyalty to the Red Sox. Because I think most Red Sox fans hate it. They feel like it's a bad, another, like when they traded Betts, another bad omen that your team is really just not fully committed. There was some report about his being how good of a teammate he was. And we had some stuff where they wanted him maybe to move positions, and he was resistant to that. So, okay. But they had committed to him for more than $300 million more.
Right.
And a baseball trade can often read like you're just giving the guy away. I don't know. Maybe there's some great prospect in there or something. But what I read was mostly kind of a gift to the Giants.
The outfielder just playing A-ball was the Giants' second-rated prospect. One of the pitchers seems maybe like he could be promising, but it hasn't come together yet. And the other one, Is
that Jordan Hicks is the one you mentioned first?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that guy was throwing 104 for the Cardinals and blew out his arm. He's been a few places since then. Now he's at another one.
Yeah, no, this very much seems like, oh, you don't want to do things the way we want you to do things? Well, then we're going to trade you. Which is, well, they got paid off when they did that with Xander Bogaerts. So let Bogaerts go, and that, I think, has worked out okay for them. He hasn't smashed, but Mookie Betts is still one of the very best players in the world. And they got scorched in that trade. So, yeah, I'm not optimistic about it. I think the timing is incredible. They just swept the Yankees. Just what are you doing? They're sort of making noise like they could get in the race, and they're just taking one of the best hitters in the league off the team. So, they continue to act like a team that isn't in a huge market and should have no problem living with whatever luxury tax thresholds they might get to. This does get them under. I did see that.
Congrats to the Red Sox.
Okay, golf clap for that. But yeah, I'm The bets thing is what sort of broke me permanently on them. I mean, they're still my favorite team, but I'm just not as invested in the results. They started acting like the Kansas City Royals. And what? I mean, I like a plucky underdog story, but you're never going to be a plucky underdog story. You're the Boston Red Sox. Spend your money like you are the Boston Red Sox, and then just let people judge you however they're going to judge you. I can't stand what they did yesterday.
There it is.
I can't stand it.
But it wouldn't, because of, your fading interest in them, become like the worst trade of your life or anything like that.
No.
Or even bets isn't, or is it? Your least favorite sports trade?
I felt much more strongly, negatively about bets when it happened, because I still felt more, like I just said, like that was
He's
kinda
better.
Like, it was kind of like the final straw for me with them. Like, it was already with the the World Series, and like this isn't really working for me the way it used to when I got into them. But dealing him, just like, who are you? You don't get to act like this. You poach good players like this from other teams. Act like the Dodgers and the Yankees. That's who you are. It's just really bothered me. And so, I don't know.
I wonder if this is a baseball thing or what. Like, I was a Mets fan as a kid, and we're far from those teams. We watch them on TV, but we're not like day to day in the market. Maybe that makes it different, or maybe it's different because they won championships first. Like, that's you with the Red Sox. They'd won it, and that's your standard. And you always say how you wanted them to bring everybody on the team back in 2005, because that would have been sentimentally satisfying. You would have liked that, because that's another way of saying that, like, winning kind of takes a back seat a little bit for at least for a while
after you win one. Yes.
If I were asked, like, what's my least favorite trade for one of my teams, I could pick Wendell Clark. I might pick Wendell Clark because I was still a Leafs fan at that time, and they traded him to Quebec, and I hated that. I think I probably would put that one. But we're talking about a baseball trade, and I'm remembering when the Mets traded Len Dykstra to the Phillies for Juan Samuel, who was good.
Mm-hmm.
But it just felt terrible.
This is the guts of my team. What are you doing?
Maybe it made sense, but it still felt terrible to trade Lenny Dykstra from the Mets. By then, I think that's 89, so 2+ years removed from their World Series. They were in the playoffs in 88. In those days, you had to be good to make the playoffs. So they were good enough to win the NL East, but lost to the Dodgers. Yeah, it just felt like this is gross. And so, I don't know, there's room, in my mind, like there's room for criticizing or just hating a trade that your team makes, even if you think it might be a good move.
Mm-hmm. Well, right, because you don't, it's important, I think, to point out that the Red Sox got the same criticism for Bogaerts that they got for Betts, and that they're getting now for Devers. And we don't know how that's going to turn out. Like, they could have gotten out from under a $300 million mistake, for all I know. Sitting here right now, I don't think so. It's not, eventually it's going to be a mistake, but he's 28. I would think you're still looking at, half of the contract is, potentially a peak player for them. But you don't know when the money gets that big. And I also don't know. There's been rumblings about it. We talked a little bit about it when it was all going on. They wanted him to go on the bench and be a DH because they got a better defensive third baseman. And that didn't go smoothly, but eventually, okay. And he started the season really poorly and then got really hot and has been just regular Rafael Devers here for the last 2 months, I guess. But then there was the thing about first base. They suffered an injury, and they wanted him to go from third base to DH back to first base mid-season. And yeah, that's not nothing to ask a guy to do. And it could be embarrassing if the guy doesn't know how to do it. But assuming there was going to be some amount of ramp-up time, I'll go out early and take some balls over there today, and we'll see if it works. Can I do it? And I'll be honest, and you're not going to put me out there unless I'm comfortable, right? Coach, okay, let's try that. Instead, he's just stonewalling the whole time. It would stand to reason that there would be guys on the team Now, I don't know if it's the majority of guys or if it's the guys that really matter, but there would be guys on the team sort of not trusting him anymore. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you're the cornerstone guy. We're asking you to play. We're not asking you to pitch or put on the catcher's gear. We're asking you to stand over at first base and try that. And no, you told me I wasn't playing third base anymore. I'm the DH now, and that's it. That sounds messed up to me. So I think they have more of a leg to stand on here than they did with Betts. Betts, to me, Betts has gone from the outfield to play second base for the Dodgers. Like, he's the most amenable superstar you can find, I think. This guy might have made his own bed there.
Okay. Were you watching Friday night, by the way, for the Judge homer in the extra innings? I watched I watched a lot of that game.
I was not.
Friday night.
Yeah.
And you have Crochet taking a 1-0 shutout into the ninth. And I think he got the first out, or maybe not, and Judge took him deep to tie the game over the monster, over the seats. After Judge took a close pitch that was called a ball, and it was a ball that was really close. Crochet wanted it. And then Judge homered. Great moment. I mean, I'm not a Yankee. I don't like I can't stand either team. But that was a pretty cool moment. Boston won the game in extra innings after numerous replay reviews that lost me. I was kind of digging this game.
I was watching. You know
was
what?
That Friday?
I got there after the game was tied. Because is this where Boone gets thrown out?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
for throwing his gum.
Smart.
I did see them walk off on Friday.
That was pretty good.
But I missed how the game got tied.
Trades you hated because you loved the player or just for whatever reason. This is really, this is a Sabres tweet, right? This is actually a Sabres tweet. It's just, I'm still pondering that point. Like, even though we might like the move, we hate the trade. When it's the Mets or the Red Sox, just because we're attached to the player. The Sabres, you get attached to the player, but the team loses, and then they are almost forced into these trades.
Right. The minute the player has the leverage to say he doesn't want to be here anymore, it's contract time, whatever it is, as soon as they can. Like, the whole we want guys who want to be here thing takes a beating as soon as a guy has an opportunity to actually, I would like to go somewhere else now. And so we end up, I understand why you have to make a trade in that position. It's hard to like the trade, though, because what is it? It's saying about your organization that these guys, they know it better than we do. They're in it. And as soon as they got an opportunity to get out, they push the button.
That's their all-stars of the last decade,
right?
Or their entire history.
And
almost.
Come on down, JJ Peterka. You're the next contestant on the does he want to be here or not? And is it time to make a commitment or time to trade him?
Peterka and or Tuck.
That's right. I've been worried about Tuck ever since Lockers got cleaned out. So we'll see what happens there, because he's got a contract for another year, but now would be the time for him to commit and them to commit to him to a new extension this offseason, and I'm not at all taking that for granted. In fact, I'm more than that. I'm worried about it.
But you want it.
I would love for them to re-sign Tuck, but I'm not optimistic. At least how he sounded anyway at locker cleanout. I haven't even thought about it. I haven't talked to my wife about it. What?
Well, there's something today furthering the notion
that he might be available.
He might be, unwilling to stay. How could you blame anybody?
No,
How could you blame any of them?
I know. It's such a frustrating place to be.
It's not the Red Sox, it's the Pirates.
Right.
Where, what is that like? Where you have the best young pitcher in the game and the best maybe for a long time. He's just unbelievable, Skeens. And the conversation about him is how good he is. How every time he pitches, the Pirates score maybe one run.
Right.
And how they probably should trade him, or they could justify trading him because he's not getting that contract from them. But why be in business? Why have a team?
Yep.
It's not like it's always you should just be able to spend to the top dollar. But if it's like such a given that your team would not spend, this is the Bengals a little bit too. We talked to Joe Goodberry earlier. If it's just such a given that you're not going to do it, the Bengals did get their top guys done on offense. So at least there's that. Just like, it's such a shame when ownership just comes off like it hates its fans.
Yeah.
And that's the Pirates. I wouldn't say that the Sabres ownership hates the fans. I just don't think he's got the juice for, committing, and has shown this for many years, to that organization to the extent that's necessary, financially and otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gutting the front office in many different departments over the years, and just like not spending to the cap, just not making moves during the season when your team might have a chance, and they just kind of sit there. You kind of know what the Sabres experience is going to be.
Yep. And it absolutely, well, I shouldn't say it that way. For me, it absolutely makes me think about, like, how does any guy on that team that is committed, right, that took the big deal when it was there, Thompson, Dahlin, Owen Power, whomever you want here, how do they really feel about that commitment that they made as they watch teammate? Is it too much to say teammate after teammate? I mean, we'll see. This summer is really big for this, because I feel like as much of a beating as this fan base has taken, Paterk is one thing. He doesn't have to be everybody's favorite. I'm sure he's not. He happens to be one of my favorites. I like him a lot. I think trading him would be a huge mistake. But he is not Alex Tuck. Like, Alex Tuck was, I think, is the face of, we want guys who want to be here. We got him in the Eichel trade. He's from close enough by the area that it works. He watched them in 06 and whatever. He sort of grew up around, the Sabres. If he doesn't want to stay, it's going to feel like just turn the lights out. If I don't, so far it's just words. But, man, I just feel that'll be really, really hard for the fans. And good luck to the Sabres explaining it. I mean, how does that news conference sound? I mean, there's going to be just no hiding it. No, not that there was with Reinhart or Ristolainen or Eichel. Like, those guys, it was pretty well known. They all wanted to leave, and they eventually got traded. But, O'Reilly. But this guy's just, it's not even a little. I think it's a lot different.
Well, it's always more than just wanting to be here or not. The question is why. Like, what is it about you that has these people trying to head for the hills? Like, what is it about you? And it's that under the umbrella of commitment, isn't it? I mean, why would it have to be something else? It doesn't have to be weather. It would seem to me that the most common answer to that question by the people involved would be like the organizational commitment.
Right.
And that's so many different things. That's the roster, but it's also the building, and it's also like the staff. It's so many different things. Just not measuring up to the standard, not meeting the standard. So, I don't know. What do you want to hear the Sabres say if that happens? Who cares? Like,
because we'll know what happened anyway. Like, whatever they try to paint over it, it's going to peel. Because we're going to know, I think.
Some are saying we might be entering a period of suffering.
Oh, boy.
Some are saying,
wow.
Is it possible that we're entering a period of suffering?
That is incredible to think about. Like, that's where this all begins. Kinda.
Mid 11-12? Is that when that is?
Yeah. Right?
Trading Vanek?
Isn't that the summer? Eventually, they get around to that. That's the summer they tried to sign Shane Doan and Ryan Suter and Zach Parise and everybody. And when it came to pass that they couldn't do any of those things, I think the season came and went. And then wrapping it up, Darcy talked about, we're in for a long ride here.
Little did he know.
Holy cow.
Little did he know.
I want to check the dates on that, but I think that lines up. I think that's when that happened. That was like their last big stand at we're gonna try to get free agents in here to complement what we've got going. And when that didn't work, it was just the white flag went up.
Vanek was traded to the Islanders 13-14. Am I right to associate him with that press conference? Not that he was traded at he was traded during the season.
Right.
But I'm not sure that my timing is right. It's too long ago, people. Trying to backdate the suffering era. I'm just going to settle for the playoff drought. How's that for you? 11-12. There you go.
That'll work.
That's when that started. But Vanek was on the team for two plus seasons more after that. How about that U.S. Open? What a cool thing. J.J. Spaun, all the kind of stuff, the flowery stuff that you get sometimes from sports. Seems like it totally applies here. It's not always my style to sort of gravitate to that, but this one's undeniable. The guy whose career has been, just kind of there, not a big name at all. This year he's had a really good year, kind of out of nowhere. Stories about him just grinding through the years to try to get to a point like this and having trouble believing in himself. There's that element of the story. And then there's the day he had yesterday where he would have been written off by most, I wasn't watching the broadcast, I was listening, and they're still covering his holes, but I don't know.
I had forgot.
Five fives in a row.
I had given up on him watching it. I'm just looking for somebody to take down Burns because that's the only guy that could hurt us in our bet with Brian.
Yeah.
And, he had a really great look at that at the start of the day. And then when he had shot 40 on the front, I'm like, all right, well, you're not going to be my guy. And it just turned around. The other guys Burns specifically, finally made some mistakes. And, good on him, Spaun, for staying in the moment, not letting a 40 on the front, but I guess it wasn't my time to win the U.S. Open today.
But, there are opens, right. There are opens where you just kind of become the winner by default almost because you're not making the double bogeys and you win. But that's not what happened.
Right.
He still had to deliver the last two holes and the last several holes. But 17 and 18 birdies in the rain. Just storybook stuff. And seems like, a great guy to root for. I still don't know how the caddy did not release the umbrella when they embraced and sort of danced there. That was weird. But maybe for the sponsor's benefit, maybe just an instinct to not hurt anybody by launching an umbrella from your hand. Whatever it is, kind of funny. J.J. Spaun, you want to talk about it with us? 803-0550 or some of the Sabres points that were made. We did some football with Joe Goodberry earlier. Stanley Cup resumes tomorrow night. NBA Finals tonight in Oklahoma City, 8:30. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
The Sabres announced that defenseman Rasmus Dahlin will represent Sweden at the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Italy, and Team USA released the first 6 players for their roster, including Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Austin Matthews, Charlie McAvoy, Brady Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk. Game 5 of the NBA Final tonight in Oklahoma City as the Pacers and Thunder have split the series so far with 2 wins apiece. Tip-off is set for 8:30. And Shohei Ohtani is the Dodgers' starting pitcher tonight against the Padres for the first time since 2023, following recovery from his elbow injury. First pitch is set for 10:10 at Dodger Stadium. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I have said on this podcast and in my radio interviews several times now that the Sabres have indicated that they do not want to trade J.J. Peterka. Their answer has changed. They are at least now listening on it. And I think that's recent. I think it's the reality of the situation. People know Peterka's unhappy, and it's believed he would like to go somewhere else. And I just think that reality is sinking in a bit. I think the Sabres realize they have to at least look into it. And I think in the last little bit, it's gone from we don't want to do it and we're not doing it to we don't want to do it, but we at least have to look into it. I think it's kind of, if you're serious, offer us something serious and we'll look at it.
Awesome. Wow. Elliot Friedman on J.J. Peterka. Awesome. Wow.
Suffering,
that needs work.
Suffering, by the way, was the end of April 2013.
So that's when it was announced?
And then, so Vanek got traded that October, like at the beginning of that season, or November, whenever it was. It was early in the year.
It hasn't stopped? It hasn't?
No. I don't.
Concluded?
I don't.
The suffering?
I don't believe it has.
Is it about to get worse?
Like we said last segment, Peterka and Tuch are very different people to me within the organization. One's a veteran, one is just starting his career, so there's that. But symbolically, I just feel like Tuch would be if it comes to that, a body blow that I think the fans will feel for a long time. And it's funny because it's not, he's not the caliber of player that Eichel is, right? Not a superstar. He's a very good player. I think any team would like a guy like Alex Tuch on their team. 30 goals, good size, it's all there. But he is the return. Was the return for Eichel, the main return for Eichel, and the face of we want guys who want to be here. And everything starts there. Thompson gets signed, Cousins gets signed, Dahlin eventually Power after he's drafted, and it's all sort of in this framework of these guys want to be here, they love it here, they want to turn it around, it means everything to them. And I think Tuch is at the front of that line. Whether he ever said all those things or not, he was positioned that way by the organization. He certainly didn't loudly object to it at all that I know of, or even quietly object to it. So if he doesn't want to agree to a new contract with them and they decide, because what do you have to do in that situation? I think you have to explore the market before his contract is up. Otherwise, you risk losing the player for nothing. So I think if they start going down that road, it's going to feel a lot like suffering. Even though those other guys are all under contract and are all excellent players to varying degrees, it's going to feel really, really dark, I think. And again, I don't want to speak like I know that's going to happen. There is some noise about it today around the league that he could be available. And I've thought the entire time since locker cleanout, I've been on alert waiting for something to drop there because I just did not think he sounded like a guy who wanted to continue to be the face of I want to be here when talking about his future with the team.
Guys want to win. Can't get to the playoffs. He'll be 30. Can't get to the playoffs.
He got one career. This is probably his last big contract at his age. And, he's got the opportunity to sort of manipulate it in a way that could get him maybe somewhere he even wants to go, that his wife wants to go. Who knows? What could be motivating him? But winning would be probably near the top of the list. And how objectively should you feel about that if you're him? I mean, look around. I don't know.
He has 1 year left, 4.75. This is a contract that goes back to when he was with Vegas.
Right.
Tuch has had the same contract since he arrived to the Sabres or to Buffalo 4 years ago. And Peterka is up. He's up as a restricted free agent. So, maybe similar circumstances despite that.
Well, what's interesting there is It might really test the we want guys who want to be here thing, because they do not have to trade him. Like he doesn't really have, the only leverage he has is I don't like it here. And your reply to him back could be too bad. You can't, you're not unrestricted yet. We have your rights, and you risk having the Reinhart thing happen with him if he doesn't want to commit long-term to you. So, it does get to the point where leverage becomes in play for him. But right now, I don't think there's much. It's just simply he might be wanting to take you want guys who want to be here? Okay, well, I don't. So what do you want to do now? You want to move me somewhere? The offer sheet thing is interesting with him. Like, there's been a lot of chatter about, after what St. Louis did last year, they pried 2 guys out of Edmonton with offer sheets and paid the price for it. And, Edmonton's in the final, so dippy whip for them. They didn't miss those 2 guys that much, I guess. But if some team wants to come to Peterka with that, the Sabres could just match it. They don't have to let him go. They could just match, depending on how outrageous it is. But so does Peterka even want to take that chance? Because if he really wants out, an offer sheet might not be the right route to choose. I mean, it would take a lot of guts if you're the Sabres, I think, to match an offer sheet on a guy who, if he doesn't want to be on your team, you are basically I got you. But that could be a deterrent on the offer sheet idea from his end, because he could end up stuck.
And that would be a big deal.
Yes.
The offer sheet would be, many years at many millions.
For sure.
And, sorry, kid. Yeah, the Rangers, I heard.
Right.
For that idea, right? Well, if the Sabres ended up, by their own choice or feeling like they were forced into it, moving these 2, top 6 forwards, you have to get that back.
Right.
How do you
got to find a way to win those trades, or at least saw them off. I got to break even. I need to replace. Yeah,
without having the option of rebuilding.
Right.
The Sabres will not trade these players for draft picks.
They can't.
They can't afford to.
They cannot. If
they probably should.
If they do that, you can just put a for sale sign in the yard. I don't know what else to do if you do that. Because that is the kind of trade, especially with a player like Tuch, maybe less so with Peterka, but still, they're both comparably productive players here. Tuch's a much better all-around player and defensive player than Peterka is at this point in his career. But we just went through an entire season that was at times positioned as they needed one more guy and didn't go get him. One more guy up there, where you're looking at Tuch and Peterka as like stalwarts, right? Those are my guys. I need another guy to supplement them. It didn't do it, and now I'm into a summer where it sounds like Peterka certainly is on the market, and it would not surprise me at all if Tuch ends up on the market. And I'm going to then find my way to 3 top 6 forwards in one off season when I couldn't find one? I do have chips I'm going to use here in the form of top 6 forwards, so I just don't know. You got to find the right. Somebody wants a change of scenery, so we'll just swap comparable guys. I don't know, man. It's not a good feeling time at all. Newsflash.
It's lonely up in these parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. The player, you're getting somebody else's problem. I think, because these are your problem. So that can work, but hard to be too optimistic about all this.
Right, because I'm what am I doing? I'm moving players who have spent time here and pretty obviously they want to go. That's why I'm looking to trade them. How does the guy on the other end of that phone call feel? They're on a good playoff caliber team right now and feeling like they're a part of the future. And you're going the other way in a trade for J.J. Peterka or Alex Tuch to the Buffalo Sabres. That is not a phone call I want to make to my wife. or to my dad. Like, yeah, I'm going to Buffalo. And it's not because of the palm trees and the taxes. I mean, the organization is now notorious for losing. It's what they are known for, not making the playoffs in a sport where everyone takes their turns. That's just not a place that I'd want to get traded to. I'm sure whoever it ends up being will put on the brave face and talk about the great opportunity to play power play minutes or whatever it is, but I think you're in tough to win either one of those trades.
The one thing I would tell, I mean, this is going to make me sound good. The one thing I would tell that player, that hypothetical player, is you could be a legend.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you win and just it takes off, you're a big part, if not like the big part of that story in a market that does have a proud tradition for this team and this sport, and would just love to have it back, be able to experience that again. That's my best shot at trying to talk that idea up. Let's change the subject after a break. Brian Koziol will join us at 6. We'll talk about thrilling U.S. Open. I mean, it was pretty great. Not just really close and hard fought, but the ending that J.J. Spawn put down made it especially memorable. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR. And with Brian Koziol after the top of the hour. It was a ride, our little bet with him. It's not so little. Every major championship, and it was his week to pick 10 players. He was pretty bold with his picks, taking, among others, Sam Burns. Would have paid him double had Burns won. I was starting to ponder that yesterday. 2-shot lead at the turn or after 10, I believe, but then it got away from one Sam Burns. Stanley Cup Finals, Game 6 is tomorrow night. Game 5 tonight in the NBA. Mike Breen will be broadcasting his 1,132nd national NBA game, which passes Marv Albert for the most by a play-by-play announcer, according to a site I like, Unnecessary Sports Research. They're always giving you the updated countdowns on announcers and how many games they've done in their careers. Marv Albert, however, is still tied with Mike Breen as of tonight for most NBA telecasts, play-by-play or otherwise, because in what season, I'm not expecting you to know this, but I just like it. Because in one season, Marv Albert made a single appearance as a color commentator. 1973.
Wow.
Marv Albert goes back at least to 1973. So they're tied in total NBA national telecast appearances, but Breen takes the lead tonight in play-by-play by one because of that. Third is Hubie Brown.
I first heard Mike Breen he was the sports update anchor.
Yep.
On the Imus in the Morning show on WFAN when I lived in Connecticut. Really, the thing that made me want to do this for a living was listening to that show, and then eventually Mike and the Mad Dog, same station. But Breen was the update guy there, and he had a great sense of humor. I mean, the show was mostly predicated on being funny, if not flat out offensive at times. But he just had a couple of moments that I would never forget. Like, just really, really, really great. One time they were playing a clip, and they had a lot of fun with Stump Merrill, who was the Yankee manager at the time.
Wow.
And
you're going back farther than when I watched him.
So he would there was no watching it. This was just a radio show. This is like 88, 89.
Wow, okay.
And Merrill would often do his post-game meetings with the media while eating like a plate of barbecue or something. Like whatever the post-game spread in the locker room was, he'd be answering questions. You could hear him like licking his fingers and stuff. It was just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But one time he was talking about, they had just played, one of the Necro brothers had pitched against the Yankees. And he said something about, the Necros, they're so tough with that knuckleball, And Breen went off because the bit was he pretended he didn't realize that Stump Merrill was saying Necros. And it was like he just is on and on. Racism, running, and they're trying to interrupt him, all for the bit.
It's like a Gilda Radner bit.
Right, they're just letting him go, and finally, he said Necros! Mike! He's like, oh, never mind.
That's her bit. That was her, that's Rosanna Dana.
Whole thing.
Right?
It was so great.
Emily Latella.
Right,
was the character, right?
Yes.
When Gilda Radner, that's totally her. I watched that show when I was working mornings in Rochester and completely ripped off a couple of his things, Mike Breen. When you would, anybody wants any sort of friendly advice, when you'd preview a clip and an update but play something completely different, that's good times.
Right, right.
We had a couple of those.
Yeah.
We had our late, great entertainment critic at the time at that station, Bill Klein, was always unintentionally funny during his reports. And I would just clip him. And, there was one, and you want to make it so it's like a more serious one. Joe Torre would have been the Yankee manager in these years. And Torre was disappointed in his team's effort, and it would be Klein, I'm going to hit you and make your face a bloody mess. And just,
right.
Just keep you on your toes.
Right, yep.
Not everybody's favorite thing, but I just took ideas right because he would do that. Take ideas right from him, like that one. So, and he's had a long,
incredible
Knicks announcer
career here. Yeah.
Definitely the voice of the NBA.
Yes,
Mike Breen.
Yes.
We will take a break. The voice of Tee to Green, Brian Koziol, after sports. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Defenseman Rasmus Dahlin will represent Sweden at the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Italy. And Team USA released the first 6 players for their Winter Games roster, including Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Austin Matthews, Charlie McAvoy, Brady Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk. Game 5 of the NBA Final tonight in Oklahoma City as the Pacers and Thunder have split the series so far with 2 wins apiece. Tip-off is set for 8:30. Shohei Ohtani is the Dodgers' starting pitcher tonight against the Padres for the first time since 2023 following recovery from his elbow injury. First pitch is set for 10:10 at Dodger Stadium. After a blockbuster trade yesterday between the Giants and Red Sox, Rafael Devers will likely split time between third base and the designated hitter position for the Giants, but no specific conversations have occurred as of yet, according to Maria Guardado, San Francisco Giants beat reporter for MLB.com. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tomorrow night in Florida as the Panthers lead the series 3-2. Face-off is at 8 with a 7:30 pregame, and all of the action right here on WGR Sports Radio 550. Coverage of the Stanley Cup Final on WGR is presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, and brought to you in part by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I got a speeding ticket in the mail yesterday.
In the mail?
Yeah. I think I'm going to just ignore it.
It's Mike Schopp.
Where was this?
Spain.
And the Bulldog.
I think if I just lay low, I think I'll get away with it.
Not mention it on the air?
Definitely don't want to talk about it on the air.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I like the sound of this more and more as we go. I'm an outlaw.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Man, I'm dragging today, and I just figured out why. I just remembered why. It's not the 5-hour drive each way Saturday and Sunday, I don't think. I got back in enough time to recover from, that can take it out of you. It's not the heat. I don't think it's the heat. What's the earliest flight out of Buffalo you think there would be in a given day?
5:55.
My wife and son flew out of Buffalo this morning at 5:05.
Okay.
So what time do you get to the airport? What time do you get up? And I, offered to drive them. So we left the house at 3:30 this morning. I got some of the sleep back, but there's a 5:05 flight out of Buffalo. There is. I'm here to tell you there is.
Did you talk to them about their experience at the airport? Like, were there people at the counters? Because we flew out of Toronto. No, out of Vancouver back to Toronto 2 summers ago and got to the airport like 2 hours before our 5 a.m. or 5:30 flight and stood there.
They said they had to wait for one person to help them.
We were amongst a group of people waiting for like the airport to open. Basically, is what it was like.
That was what Seattle was like for me.
Airport's not open. I can't do any. I'm here. Okay, I guess I don't have to get here 2 hours at a time.
5 a.m. out of Seattle. The workers don't play by the same rules.
Right.
They're getting there at 4.
Right.
That's when their shift starts.
Yeah, an hour is going to be enough for you to make your flight.
It was close,
right?
But we did make it. Brian Koziol on the West Her hotline. Brian, what would be your word to best describe this U.S. Open?
Ooh, good one. One word. I guess I would say it's lame to say memorable. It seems too easy.
I like unforgettable more than memorable.
Yeah.
Was it unforgettable? For one guy, it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a fan, I don't think I'll ever forget that putt. I mean, you don't.
I don't know.
60-foot birdie putt in the Open.
It was amazing. I think I would agree with you if he needed to make it.
Right.
It's more just the theater that he made it. Like the moment was amazing. I don't know. How about was it great, Brian? Like, not everybody loves when players are having such a hard time.
I thought it was great in the sense that there was fluctuation in the leaderboard. That's really all I ask. I think I've said that to you before.
whether you like the U.S. Open setup versus the other majors in terms of the scoring. The number to me in the end doesn't matter too much as long as there is ability to either go up or down. That's what I care about. A lot of times in the U.S. Open, it's only down, and there are some times that the setup doesn't allow for you to go up. I thought there were enough holes on the back nine that there was opportunity to go up, especially like 17, which was a drivable hole, which Spawn obviously played tremendously well. McIntyre did as well. So as long as there's the opportunity for up and down, then I'm usually okay, regardless of what the actual score is in the end of this event and this setup. I mean, Oakmont is at the top of the list. It's kind of the poster child course for what the USGA, when they say, hey, this is, what the U.S. Open is supposed to be about, like, hard greens, challenge, fast greens, thick, rough, narrow fairway, this is kind of the spot that they want it to be. There are some other courses that maybe are also challenging in different ways, but I feel like this is their go-to when it says, like, what do we want the definition of the U.S. Open to look like? But the back nine, I would say there was probably multiple moments where you literally had no clue of what would be the right player to say this guy's going to come out on top. Now, Burns was there for most of it, so that maybe is still the best answer. But Spawn obviously got back in it. Hovland was always there. I don't know how much of a credible threat he was. You had Hatton got involved, Ortiz got involved, and then the whole time there's Rahm is in the clubhouse watching this whole thing at 4 over. And if the weather continues to get nasty and continues to cause havoc, could Rahm's +4 be in play? And then you have Scheffler, who essentially was up and down from the +4 number throughout most of the day on the course. And he's giving himself, it felt like every single hole, he had a legit birdie look, and none of them were going down for him to the point where it got really, really close to be a threat. So I would say there was probably 7 or 8 players that at one point there might have been a thought, even if it was just brief, that I thought, hey, maybe this guy legitimately has a chance. And that's ultimately, to me, is what makes a great ending to a tournament.
Yeah, there was a point even Henley was in that group at 4, and he got a couple of times on camera where there was a chance for him to either put it close or even make a putt. Like, nope. And he just could not climb at all. But yeah, it's like plenty of guys had, I guess, somewhat of a look at it.
Cameron Young.
Right, another one. But Spawn ends up... Go ahead.
When I look individually at just our bet, I ended up with 5 of the top 12. So
and all 3 of your 2X guys, too?
Yes. Yeah, Young and Burns.
And Henley.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I
felt good about, would I have picked J.J. Spawn? No. I don't think either of you would have. Maybe I don't want to speak for you.
Mike might have. He's been crushing on him since the Players.
I like him. I don't think I would have either.
Yeah, I would. I definitely wouldn't have.
I didn't want to. Well, he became the favorite, or not the favorite, one of the favorites. I didn't want to bet him after round 1, even.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I didn't know a lot about him, and it's still the U.S. Open. But
Hovland's the only player in the top 3, 4 that I guess you say, on paper, he has a strong enough resume. You should always consider taking him. But, I mean, Rahm, Scheffler, Burns were all tied for 7th. Henley and Schauffele were right there, too, in the top 12. And obviously, Burns was winning most of the way. So that I feel, even though I lost, I feel bad because I'm the only picker that has lost this year. I feel like I don't think I would have picked Spawn. So I'm like, what,
Right, in the end.
It was very interesting, at least. We haven't had at least our bet be as interesting as this was in quite a while.
No, for sure. I mean, I was really glued to it because of Burns. And I thought about, I don't know if I told you this, Brian, but I've mentioned it to Mike. I decided when you made those 3 picks of the double money category in our bet, that, all right, I'm going to see what the odds are on one of those 3 guys, and I'm going to do that on FanDuel for, $20. Yeah. And I settled on Henley, but I could have very possibly picked Burns, and I was kicking myself all weekend that because I really was throwing darts. It was just one of these 3 guys. I'm going to grab one, and I watched Burns last weekend and just thought, he was good last weekend. He won't be good this weekend. And there he is, just sort of out front the whole way until, man, like
11.
When is that when you finally got you must have been feeling, I don't know, well, you tell us, how you must have felt pretty comfortable, right?
I did, because he was putting better than anybody in the tournament up to that point. Now, I guess you could argue Spawn at the end was equally as good, but under the pressure. But I thought, I'm like, this guy's putting lights out. As long as he doesn't end up in a lie that's going to end up where he has to, like, hit backwards, like, I feel like I was feeling in a good spot. Now, I will say, selfishly, because we had, the bet going on, I did think he did kind of get jobbed when he asked for relief, and there was all that water there, and he's hitting it, and it's splashing. And then I know on social media there was a video done where, somebody put their foot down, and it literally, the water's coming out of the grass. So on the PGA Tour, I feel like that is casual water that's given relief 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
And then he got a second opinion, and they stuck with it. And now, should he have been able to overcome one bad shot to win? Yes. I mean, he didn't play. He played poorly the rest of the way. But who knows? If he gets relief and hits the green and makes par, like, I would have loved to have seen it played out from there.
Do you think the officials, just quick follow-up, decided we just can't do this for everybody? Like, the course was so saturated that maybe they thought they had to be strict when it came to that ruling. I'm not sure that should be the way it's done.
I think that's probably a piece of it. You're right. And I'll flip it and say the USGA always gets so much criticism for something with these tournaments. I thought, if anything, like, well, hey, this is the leader of the tournament here. Like, if we give him relief, are we going to get nailed for it? Or if we don't give him relief, are we going to get nailed for it? And I guess you're going to take criticism either way. So that was a tough spot for them to be in. And I think probably in the end, others that were asking for relief, I'm sure, had similar waterlogged situations. Like, what did they decide on those? You had to have an official with every group with how waterlogged the course was. I was really surprised that they got it in. I'm happy, because there was a moment there after they came back when it started pouring again. And guys, it looked, and Adam Scott chipping 3 times behind the green, and Burns is all, they both double bogeyed the same hole, Scott and Burns, and the weather is just causing havoc. I'm thinking, like, I don't want the weather to ruin this event, that It becomes the ultimate factor in who rises to the top, or ultimately who hangs on to win. So I'm glad at least it stopped raining to the point where down the stretch it felt like, at least for the most part, other than that Burns moment, that it didn't seem like it played like the ultimate factor in terms of who won.
Right. I think that's a good point. Like, if Spawn hadn't made the shots he made on 17, that drive, and then birdied that, and then made the putt on 18, even though he had the wiggle room, and say, like, McIntyre ends up winning the thing, it would have felt like whoever survived won it, and not somebody who went out and made shots.
Good point. I agree.
Spawn made the shots.
Spawn prevented that from being the bottom line. Yep. I agree.
To finish birdie in a U.S. Open at Oakmont is super impressive. And then that is, you won it. I think you're right, Bulldog. Like, that's the definition of you won it. He hits the 2 most perfect drives on those 2 holes. He drives the green on 17, and then the pressure shot of his life, the most important shot of his life on 18 with that driver, he nuts it right down the middle. Like, that was really, really impressive to handle that moment.
I like thinking about it, and we've talked a little bit about this at the outset of our show today, Brian, that Spawn does provide a lesson, I think, for any golfer, right? If you're playing competitive, you're just out there, slamming beers, and maybe it doesn't matter, but that you kind of stay with it, because 40 on the front 9, it would have been awfully easy for, well, someone like me to go, not my day. Now I know these guys are playing for money, and the difference between 3rd place and 8th place is probably a couple $100,000, if not more than that. So, like, the stakes matter here to this point about staying in it and staying present. But Spawn to just stay with it, and not just, would have been very easy to just go sideways and just get in the car and go home. And he obviously did far from that.
And he mentioned that afterwards. He said during the rain delay, he literally said, I need to kind of get a reset here. He said his team was really, really talking him up. Like, hey, you're still there. Like, there's a lot of golf to play. You just keep hitting your shots. He got such bad breaks on those early holes. I mean, to think that you start off with, I think, 5 5s to start the round. That the shot that he hits, it's so perfect. It hits the pin and then it spins.
Yeah.
Forever. What a terrible break. For him to be, he even said he was thinking about what would Tiger do in this moment? Like, would Tiger grind and continue to play the best that he could, or would he, obviously he wouldn't. He wouldn't, he's not going to mail it in. So he was even thinking about Tiger, who's his hero. He's a Southern California kid who grew up watching Tiger and thought, like, hey, what can I do here? He said he even changed his clothes just to get a whole fresh reset. Like, hey, this is a new day. It's a new round kind of mentality. And he was definitely in tune with his game coming out the rest of the way. And I think, that it is a good lesson like that. Sports is hard. Golf is hard. That course was hard. The conditions were really, really hard. And you got some bad breaks. How many times are just you and I playing where our round is meaningless, and sometimes we let a bad bounce or a bad break, and we're like, and you can't let it go. Like, he's playing for his professional life here, and now his professional life is made because he handled it so well.
It's maybe my single favorite narrative or storyline at all in sports is that, because that's the way to do it. And it's just like, it's not momentum nonsense. It's not meant to be nonsense. Fate. It just gets rid of all that crap. Brian, I mean, you'll never know what's coming here. Remember Jeannie Bouchard from tennis?
Yes. I remember the name. You're going to ask me about an event he played, and I probably won't be able to tell you.
She was a Canadian tennis player. She had 5 minutes of fame on the tour. Like, it was short, the fuse burned out. But she was playing Australia once, and they interviewed her coach. And her coach said the thing that I always want to hear but never hear from announcers, from coaches, from players, who always are just talking about feelings. And the coach, a man, was being interviewed during one of her matches. She might have made the semis. And well, boy, it was a tough way to drop the first set or something like that. He's like, it doesn't really matter how, just you play this point. You're still alive in this match. Play this point. And like, if you can, it's easy to say it. If you can do that mentally,
right?
What an edge you have. But if you're somebody that's like, oh, it's not going to be my day,
right,
on the fifth hole, right, then get off the golf course.
If you've got all this regret, I used to tell Owen all the time when he was playing goal, I'd ask him. It was something on the way to the rink. What's the most important shot? The next one.
The next one, yeah.
The next one. Whether you made a great save or you got roasted, the next shot is the one that matters the most. That's it. Just keep going.
Spawn did say, and I was kind of hoping he wouldn't, but he did say, like you talked about his clothes change and everything, that he thinks he did get a break there, that he was able to sit down for a few minutes and sort of, restart his mind or whatever. So he did say that. I'm not saying that that's irrelevant. It's just like the Tiger thing. He was talking about Max Homa, that he and Homa are at the same country club or something, and Homa told him that Tiger would say, "Just stay there."
Thank you. That's what he said. Yes, thank you for getting that clear on that.
Just stay there. I mean, it's probably really easy to get messed up. That flagstick thing, that's pretty harsh. And then he hit a rake. Like 2 holes later, he hit a rake that didn't help him either.
Right.
Well, some are calling Brian's performance here this week or last week now in the Pick 10 the greatest non-winning performance in history. But it's a tough game.
Yeah.
You got to pick the winner. I like I like your thinking here. Like, well, I wasn't going to pick him, so what?
Yep.
I didn't really. What could I do?
Well, you had good instincts on Rory, and so did I. To avoid him. We talked a little bit about him. He finally talked with the media on Saturday. But Brian, I don't want to overdo it, but his reputation, I feel, rightly so, should take some hits after this. Like smashing that tee marker, throwing clubs, not once but twice, at least that I saw. That was not... I mean, he's had a lifetime of goodwill. And it doesn't take a lot to undo some of that. I thought he really looked bad.
I agree. And he knows it, that he carries a huge amount of weight when it comes to the golf world and the golf industry and kids watching golf and like people that look up to him for all the reasons that you mentioned. Like, he's had a historic career. He keeps sitting here saying that he's mad at the media. Like, I know a piece of it was that he didn't like that his name was attached to the driver not conforming to the rules, and people instantly thought, well, he cheated at the Masters. Like, no, that's not the case. It's just sometimes the grooves on the club get worn over time. And
right.
It doesn't meet specs and things like that. But his name was linked. It wasn't Scheffler, who, by the way, also had his driver not meet the conforming rules. So it was somebody, and by the way, the media does not do the testing. I want to remind Rory that. So he's like, oh, the media leaked it. No, they didn't. The media got the story because somebody from the USGA leaked it to the media. Like, they don't. The writer from golf.com is not in there measuring your driver or weighing it. Like, no.
Right.
So I know that ultimately he's probably mad because they ran with it with Rory when Scheffler ultimately later admitted that his driver also was non-conforming with it, and it made it look maybe like Rory did something at the Masters. But, I mean, yesterday, I know after he was finished, he was kind of giving he was quoting, like, this Mount Everest story of, like, well, people that make it to the top of Mount Everest, more people die on the way down or something, because they don't have anything to kind of drive them anymore. And I was like, geez, like, this is really deep here. But, yeah, he has handled post-Masters and post-Grand Slam the exact opposite of what I would have predicted. I thought, okay, it's going to free him up. This major drought, this Grand Slam drought, this being reminded every year you come to Augusta National about it, like it was weighing on him. The emotion that we saw after he won, all of his, post-round interviews and, talks that we saw publicly about the Masters win, of how meaningful it was. And he says, now I've accomplished everything that I want to accomplish in golf. Like, how could you be mad at anything at that point now professionally about your life? Like, who cares if you miss the next 10 cuts? Like, look what you did. You said you accomplished everything you want to. Like, it's been the total opposite. He looks mad. He looks frustrated. Like, to me, that looks like a golfer that maybe blew the Masters. Like, he had it and he blew it, and he knows, like, I'll never get another chance like that. No, you won it. And he still has only missed one cut all year. And I thought he ended up finishing in the top 20, I think, in the end of this tournament. Let me just double check.
-7, +7.
So it wasn't like he had a miserable week. I don't get it why he does the smashing of the tee marker, the throwing of the clubs multiple times. Like, he knows the impact that he has on the game in a good way. And I mean, I'm not his advisor, but I would be advising him. He's like, bud, you got to change your tone. You went from the most lovable golf story here of the last few years to now people are really turning on you. And he needs a reset. He needs the reset rain delay for sure. He's going to go to Ireland now and play in the Open Championship, his home country. Like, what else could, it seems like it's all setting up for a storybook year for him. Like, I don't get it. I mean, his pissiness for how his year has been is just, it's really, really surprising to me.
Very good, Brian. Well, good battle. And we will meet up again, what is it, 4 weeks away?
Yep, mid-July, the Open Championship, Ireland, Royal Portrush. Shane Lowry was the champion there last time, I think 2019. And are we back to Bulldog now on the rotation?
Yep, my turn. Yeah, twice this year for me.
Yep.
All right, preparations are already underway, no doubt. Thanks for your time today and all of last week, Brian.
Yep, great tournament, guys. Thanks so much. Enjoyed talking with you.
Likewise. Brian Koziol, Tee to Green host on the West Her Hotline. He asked his co-hosts on Saturday the question he asked us about Mickelson. And I was, privately very disappointed that his co-hosts did not hear our conversation, because if they had, they would have just rattled off the names, or they just played along. I don't know. Right. Like the 6 players that beat Mickelson,
right,
where he finished second at the U.S. Open. Well, when we talked to Brian on Friday, Mickelson was in great shape for the cut, but he had 2 doubles going in and ended up missing maybe by 1. And McIlroy with that top 20 at 7 over, 3 under yesterday to get him there. So he was maybe in a better place mentally yesterday, I guess. We'll take a break here. Earlier today, Joe Goodberry joined us. Focus on the Cincinnati Bengals. Drama again off the field with the Bengals this offseason. Joe was great at explaining it and giving his opinions on what will happen. Hendrickson and the first-round pick Stewart. That's next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.